I will call this meeting to order at 5:32. First, a reminder, the meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the Select Board so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are, at the conclusion of a Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair or to the Select Board as a whole and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. A reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. And for our Select Board members, because at least 3 of us got phone calls during the last meeting, if we could put them on Do Not Disturb at this time. Traybacks in the upright position. We are ready for kickoff. Okay, so are there any adjustments to the agenda?
No.
Right, then approvals of minutes of June 1st and June 9th. One of those was the...
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of June 1st.
Okay, is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of June 1st. 2022, are there any changes?
The only thing I noticed is in the item number 7, or well, in Select Board 7A, Jim Oliver, the spelling of his name is Olivier.
7A.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
It's like Olivier, but it's in there twice. So. Other than that, all looks good.
Oh, well, I believe Larry Slason's name is spelled wrong as well. I think it's only one S.
Who's that?
Down in Sidewalk, the very last.
Oh, yeah.
Are there any other changes to the June 1st agenda? Meeting minutes? No? All right, then all in favor? Aye. Okay, and then...
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of June 9th.
And that was the joint meeting between us and the Dummerston Select Board, and there were 3 of us present there, me, Josh, and Charlie, so you 2 should abstain. If you see anything.
Yes,
Okay.
via Zoom, all those people need to come out.
Oh, none of you were there.
Sorry, I wrote these, so, yeah, those need to be removed.
Did you second it?
I don't think I did. Second, sorry, yeah. Guess I'll second it. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of June 9th. And Karen has noted that we did not have a Zoom presence at all. I didn't see these until now, but I just skimming them over. I don't think there's any changes.
No, looks good for me.
Okay, all in favor with the changes noted?
Aye.
Aye. And,
You're abstaining.
Oh, I'm sorry, I know I am. I'm sorry.
all right,
I'm abstaining.
okay.
But 2 of us
Two of us.
were there, so that's a quorum of
Still
the 3 of us that were there.
There, right, yeah, so that works.
So I'll sign, Eric, and I'll sign that one. Okay.
All right. The next thing is warrants to treasurer.
I make a motion that we approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer as presented upon completion of review.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review. Karen?
So payroll warrant dated June 17th, 2022, in the amount of $18,000 $55.90. So the rec department, the director and his assistant are on this.
He's moving away, isn't he?
He's leaving the
Yeah.
rec department.
Yeah. Does anybody see anything?
It's good.
Okay, moving on.
Accounts payable dated June 4th through June 17, 2022, in the amount of $124,288.10.
This is a new addition to have the check warrant report with it.
Yes, so general fund expenditures were $58,960.97. Highway, $43,512.45. So the highway department did have a crushing invoice.
In more ways than one.
In more ways than one, careful. No, so Hazen Brothers did some crushing down at the pit, and $29,076.60. I do want to inform the board, 2 years ago, when we started crushing, it was $4.15 per cubic yard. Last year, it bumped up to $5.20 per cubic yard. This bill right here, $6.45 per cubic yard. We did crush extra material. Normally, we crush 3,500 cubic yards. We crushed more because of this July 29th storm, so we're kind of building back up that inventory. But it is a reality. We had this conversation last week with the Dummerston Selectboard as well, looking at crushing probably 5,000 cubic yards per year, and also looking at the blasting reserve fund. But that's a conversation later in this meeting. So other than that one, there are some prepaids in this warrant for July 1st for the 2023 fiscal year. So like BLCT property casualty.
Is that quarterly? That's passive, right?
Yes, that's a quarterly.
Okay.
Let me see, the Windham County tax, where is that one? It was like $10,000.
Now, is that a tax or is that
It's an assessment?
for the sheriff's office, or is that
No.
is that separate?
No, that's a county tax that's assessed to all Windham County towns, and it's based on population. So,
I think it primarily supports the courthouse.
Okay.
That's my recollection.
yeah. Let's see, what else is in here? I mean, that's pretty much the highs.
I'm just interested, we have one that the invoice description is woodchuck travels. Is that sort of along the line of beaver dam issues, or?
It's a book.
Oh, okay.
I like Josh's explanation better.
All the pressure in the battery.
We had to move the woodchucks before we crushed the lake.
I know, I looked at that one, and it was a handwritten invoice too, and I'm like, what is that? So I'm like, okay.
Right, does anybody have any other questions? No? Okay, so We have reviewed the warrant, so all in favor? Aye. All right. Next is public comment on items not on the agenda. Are there public comment in the room?
Yeah.
Swift?
Swift, and I invited a holding here from Putney Central School.
I'm a teacher at Putney Central, and I am an advisor for the LGBTQ+ Club for Kids at Putney Central. And this month, June is Pride Month, and the students in the club, they brainstormed what Pride meant to them, and we have a statement to share with the town about what Pride means to the club and to the students.
Okay.
So this is a statement from the club. Throughout the month of June, the LGBTQ+ community celebrates Pride. We do this to center the experiences of LGBTQ+ people and remember the ways queer people, especially Black trans women, have made it possible for us to discover and embrace our own identities. The PCS LGBTQ+ Club for Kids thought about what Pride means to us. Many of us are queer kids growing up in rural New England during a pandemic. We live in a state that has various resources for people like us. We are grateful to be able to gather regularly to chat, eat snacks, and have fun as a community. To us, Pride means celebration and acceptance. It means people learn about the LGBTQ+ community. It means being proud of yourself. It means believing, I like myself the way I am. It means believing in happiness. It means people get to celebrate being gay. Pride is the best month ever. Pride means remembering history and the people who fought and continue to fight for justice and equality. It means choosing your family. It means having a community behind you to help you shine in the darkness. It means that we keep showing up for one another. Happy Pride from the PCS LGBTQ+ Club for Kids.
That's great.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. I'm wanting to anchor all that in the piece of a physical display. I know we haven't flown a pride flag in the past, and I don't know what it takes to do that. And I would be curious on having it be a permanent fixture on the flagpole, but definitely starting this month. And I don't know what that takes to do that.
Do we even have a flagpole?
We do have a flagpole. It historically has been reserved really for the American flag.
And the Vermont flag.
And the Vermont flag.
Is there another way to display a flag or a different pole or someplace else, or? And that's historically, can that change?
I would certainly think so.
I'm drawing a blank right now.
I personally would, I'm in favor of flying a pride flag. I think we might be asking for confrontation if we were to try and put it on the same pole, so I think we should think about where.
Maybe something
what else it
off
might
of the town hall somewhere or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how visible it would be though.
You mean it's like out the windows or something?
Well, or on a, the flagpoles that hang off of the side of the, you know what I mean, the ones
Oh,
that
yeah.
are like I don't know what they're called. Yes, thank you. But I don't know how visible that would be from the road, and I assume you'd want it to be seen. So I guess, because there's other flags we could potentially fly as well.
Yeah, I wanted to bring specifically that up.
I'm just curious because it sort of overlaps. Where are you on a recommendation?
mural.
Exactly.
Yeah, the mural is definitely a potential piece. We're just the curiosity of finding a vertical space. We've talked about the possibility of just looking at local businesses and investigating and seeing who's open to it. Hopeful and curious that we might be able to get a grant for it, but to be blunt, right now I need person power. There are 3 people, active people on this board, and we can't do it right now. So
The idea.
we need people.
I mean, given what this committee is doing and what we're trying to promote as a town, I think the idea of maybe some well-located brackets, maybe even more than one, I don't,
Yeah,
but
I think
I'm
we
certainly
have to
happy to look at that. I mean, maybe at the end of the meeting, we could just.
all go outside and see if
That's
there's
great.
a
I'm not
spot.
sure in the meeting.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but we can.
Yeah,
Because that's easy to accomplish, and
Great.
then, you know, when it's a
Whatever.
month that we need to celebrate, then
Yeah.
we
Let
can
that
have a
flag
flag.
up, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I think that's
I'd
a
like
good-
to have further discussion on a permanent fixture, than something that's just rotating.
Sorry,
On a permanent fixture, on something that's versus like this rotating thing.
for Black Lives Matter.
For Black Lives Matter or for a
Okay.
pride flag. I think those pieces of evidence be a permanent fixture is, yes, the mural, and that's hopefully happening, but it's much easier and quicker to get a flag up and to be like, hi, we welcome everyone in this very symbolic way that doesn't necessarily just for a month.
I think, I mean, the one challenge I can see there is that, that we don't have a lot of public spaces, I think people know. So having a place that maybe we would rotate a flag, and I understand that might not be as ideal, but at least we'd have a permanent place where, you know, we can make a statement of, you know, pride or Black Lives Matter or whatever that month is, rather than trying to find spaces for all of the things. Because I'm drawing a blank on how much space we'd even have to do that kind of thing in town.
I think for me, it comes to the base of the curiosity of what does it take to welcome confrontation and have that be an opening for a discussion of like, okay, great, yeah, we have confrontation and here's where we stand as a town, what we are choosing. And how do we create space for those open conversations? Because I think that defaulting to just avoiding them shouldn't be the norm.
No, I do think it might also, though, for us as it has for other places, open up a question of how we have what policy decides what flag flies and what doesn't. Because what happens if we get, you know, the Boston versus whoever it was recently, with the satanic group, exactly, you know, we would have to be thoughtful about what the criteria were. I'm not sure, it's just, you know, it's obviously a political issue, so we'd have to think about it.
But anyway, to begin with, let's see if there's a space.
To get a pride flag up.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is that something that we have to decide as a group, or is that just like?
I mean, if we can go out at the end of the meeting, I mean, we would, I guess, maybe before we adjourn, we can go out front and then adjourn out front and just have a quick, and if everybody says, hey, that looks like a good spot, then we can do that. If we all say, I want there, and you want there, and you want there, then.
Well, I didn't know that as a select board, if we needed to.
I'm not even sure we really need to decide that.
What is
because it's,
what is the role of the select board in
I
this
mean, it would be,
process?
the town manager manages all the property of the town, so it probably is actually her decision where we put that flag.
I think where it would come to the select board is if it becomes controversial, it'll land with the select board.
Right.
So that's, if we can decide together, then we've made a decision together, which is then we're not begging the town manager with it. So that's probably a better way to do it.
And I think it demonstrates the values of the select board, like, yes, we as a select board all supported this decision.
Exactly.
Well, if that's the case, I guess what I'm saying is, can we make a motion? Can we be more definitive? Because right now you two have chimed in with your ideas, but we as a group have not
Decided.
decided that, you know.
We're also in public comment right now, so
You can't really
we
make a
can't really
decision.
make a decision in that.
So you're saying you could do it at the end of the meeting and make a motion, is that?
But then that's a
It's
good
not, it's not
question.
warranted.
Technically,
It's not warranted.
It's not really,
Action item,
yeah.
like under select board item.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's not warranted.
Right.
So, it's a good question, Peg.
Yeah.
Let's look at the end of the meeting and then we'll figure out where to
The
go.
process, trying to, you know, if we can make a statement, and I want to make a statement, you know, to support. But if we can't, I don't want it to get in the way of flying a pride flag for the month, you know. I just want to make sure.
No, you're right.
And I think, I mean, I would just comment to that effect that, you know, it appears to be the consensus of the board that flying a pride flag is something we would like to do. We just need to come up with an appropriate process to allow for it to happen.
Right.
I'm okay with that. Thank you. And I also just want to say please tell the Putney Central School students, thank you for
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
very thoughtful note to us. And I
Yeah.
appreciate them sharing their voices with us.
Yeah, they're awesome.
I wanted to share one more thing and then I need to jet, is just celebrating in gratitude for the Inclusion Evergreen that was put up for the month of May, for Inclusion Week, which was in the beginning of May, and all the people that tied ribbons on and wrote messages. I have this big basket of like love of what inclusion looks like to Putney, yellow and white ribbons, and it was just a beautiful display. And I'm curious what I'm gonna do with it. I'm thinking of approaching the library and maybe like making a more permanent piece of art with it that gets displayed there for a period of time or something, or hides in a corner and people see it and go, ooh, but something to just expressing gratitude for everyone that participated in that display. We'll see what we do next year.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Is there public comment online? Laura Campbell.
Thank you. Yes, Laura Campbell here. It seems a contradiction to me that Josh has said we could fly the flag, and if it became a controversial issue, then it would come back to the select board. So it seems to me that the select board could give its support tonight, right now, in comments on items not on the agenda, to allow the pride flag to fly, since June is almost halfway over already, and not have to wait till the end of the meeting. But I'm so far behind, I missed the introduction of the representative from Putney Central School. Could I know who that person is?
That was 80, and I don't know her last name.
She just left, sorry.
Oh, dear.
The issue is with what you're bringing up, Laura, is that technically we shouldn't make select board decisions that haven't been warned. So if we were to have to take a vote on an issue that hasn't been warned, we could be potentially taken to task for that.
So, for example, the Halloween parade and festivities that get discussed are warned.
Yeah, they were
Yes.
on the agenda, and we all need to show up to talk about that, including the public.
Okay, thank you very much.
So as much as I think we'd all like to just, go ahead and do that, unfortunately, we have to follow the procedures, and it does sometimes look like pushback, and I understand that, but that's the nature of this business that we're doing here.
Thank you.
So the last name of Katie's name is Holding.
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 Okay, thank you.
Apology, I had my groundworks meeting went over. It's always the third Wednesday of every month.
Okay, that's okay. We made a quorum, so.
Oh, I know, but I just didn't want to appear truant.
Is there further public comment in the room? Is there any more public comment online? Is there any comment among the board? All right, then moving on to town manager's report.
So the first item on my report is a correction. So the highway department attended the Vermont Equipment Show in Barre on May 11th. I reported they were the recipient of a $190 sign package. It's actually $1,900.
Good.
The LCT passive purchased the sign package and Putney came home with it that day. It has some twinkly lights on them and everything else. They're pretty fancy, I guess. I haven't seen them, but it's $1,900 sign package. Pool opens this Saturday, June 18th at noon. We have 12 guards plus 2 additional to sign up. Swim lessons are full. We have 4 camps signed up for the summer to use the pool. There were a total of 54 certificates from the fundraising last year. So certain sponsors were given certificates for pool passes for the season to give out to either family members. We have 16 left in our office, Putney Cares is helping distribute those certificates to families that might be experiencing a hardship, so their kids can swim.
Is that a one-time certificate thing, or is it for the season?
Right?
It's
So
a
it's
season.
basically a pass.
So
Yeah.
how do they redeem those? Do they go to the pool or?
Yeah, they go to the pool and, so their names, as confidentially as we can, keep them. There's a little seal on those blue certificates.
Okay.
And it's a raise, so we know they can't be copied. But, yeah, so
Good.
we'll see how it works. And then we have some certificates for next year as well.
Nice.
So we're excited to get the pool open.
Yeah.
The grand list is posted. The assessed value is $245,625. Let me say that over. $245,625,600. It's a little bit higher than last year. Last year's was $243,877,000, a difference of $1,748,600. So when the grand list increases, it's always a good thing. The listers will be meeting with the select board on the 29th for 2 different items. I spoke with Gretchen Haverlick. She is an economic development consultant in Wilmington, and she stated to me that Putney should be looking into the downtown designated area program, PIP. And potentially the downtown village center tax credits. So this program, downtown designated area, will assist businesses and allow tax credits and improvements in the village, okay? So it brought up flags. I got a phone call from a resident, and they asked, where are the flags in our village?
The American flag.
The American flags. We missed Memorial Day, we missed Flag Day. All I can say is we had, I can't remember the count, but about $1,500 worth of flags about 3 years ago, and the weather destroyed most of them. So we have not put them back up. The poles are broken, the flags were on the ground from the weather. We tried to get them up for Memorial Day and try to get them down right after Veterans Day, but they're up there for so long and they get destroyed, and they looked really good. This type of program can help with, the cost of that, because there's grant money for it. And this program also engages the businesses in the village. So it's almost like their own little group. And I would like to look into that and talk further with PIP about it. Because at this point, any money, grant money that we can garner, I think would benefit this town.
It might be worth, you may have done this in the past, Karen, but it might be worth checking with Westminster, because I know Westminster does their flags really regularly, and they might just have suggestions for flags that hold up better or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just have a line item that they spend X amount on flags every year. I'm not sure how that works.
So I'll tell you a little story. When I was working in Westminster, the flags showed up one morning. We were like, who put the flags up? It was a resident.
Oh, okay.
They did it at night. And I have to poll certain towns that do have flags and see if it's the highway department, fire department that puts them up, or if it's a group of people
Coordinate.
under a certain program that coordinates it. It's like Dick DeGray does all the flowers in Brattleboro. He has, a group of people that helps him, obviously, because they're gorgeous.
That was true with the flowers in town, the businesses did that.
Yes, that was the Business Alliance that did that.
You did the flags,
Yes, on highway.
at least a couple times, didn't you?
Yeah, for both years they were up there.
Yeah. How many did we have, roughly, like 20?
25-ish.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, I mean, I'm all for having flags.
Fourth of July is coming up.
Well, and that's the other holiday, you know,
Right.
and we, you know, but I think we need engagement from, you know, people and
Do you know, Tom, are most of the brackets still intact, as far as you know?
the brackets are still all up.
Yeah, the brackets are all still up. When we took them down, I think there were like 2 or 3 that needed to be
Had
replaced.
been broken.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, we first need to designate who's actually in charge of the flag putting up
Right.
part.
All I can say too, you know, I appreciate the fire department and the highway department doing it on their spare time.
Yeah,
It was always a problem trying to get them down before it snowed. And we could never, ever do it. So,
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges, you really, because in order to have them high enough so that people don't mess with them,
right.
you need a piece of equipment, unfortunately.
To
I
get
mean,
them up
Just a step ladder.
Is that all you did it with?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's not a high-tech piece of equipment, is it?
no, but you have to move it each. All right,
So I'll pursue that a little more. Priest Road is in construction. I've been up there twice because of the rain, just to see the condition. It wasn't pretty, it was rough to navigate, so I completely hear the residents that live on that road. Houghton Brook Road and East Putney Falls Road are being prepped. I know Houghton Brook was done today. And when I
Was
say,
paved or prepped?
no, when I say prepped, the highway department is upgrading or installing culverts and ditches where needed. I don't have the schedule for the paving as of yet, but, yeah, they're just getting everything ready so they can just, you know, do what they have to do. Phasing. We'll be doing the paving. FEMA's slowly moving, we're slowly moving through that process. River Road and Tavern Hill. River Road is obligated. Tavern Hill was obligated as of today. So between FEMA reimbursement and ERAF, we're looking at $459,555.40 for those 2 projects.
In reimbursement.
Yes,
did we ever get an answer from the URAF about what the percentage?
it's 7%.
It's 7%, okay.
We have to either in kind or pay the 3%, but we do not get
With the full.
the 7.5%.
And what's our outstanding on the note that we took out?
It's $500,000 line of credit, and I haven't paid it down at all.
And we ran it all the way up to 500.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
yeah. Our total expenses for that July 29th storm was about $559,000. Just under $560,000. We're prepping for the audit. We're pulling reports from NEMRIC, copying bank reconciliations, payroll, and accounts payable, along with the checks. We're uploading everything to the FTP site, so we should hear back from them probably next week. There's more to do. It's quite the process, but Kim and Cass are handling it. They're both new. This is their first year doing audit. You know, pulling like a 3-page list of things that they need. And of course, our fiscal year does not end until June 30, 2022. So once we close it out, there'll still be more work to do after that, but we have until August. Grant opportunities, building communities grants is available right now. I've been talking with Nancy Olson too regarding the Sand Hill Road property. There's a lot of money right now in the state. So there's $300,000 for recreational facilities, $300,000 for, no, it's 300 million, sorry. Yeah, that's, oh, wait a minute, that might be a typo. That one's definitely, $300,000 for recreational facilities, $300,000 for regional economic development, $150,000 for human services facilities, and $150,000 for educational facilities grants. So when these things come in my email, I print it off and I send it wherever I can, for like, Putney Community Cares or the food shelf, or, because if somebody can capitalize on that money, they should.
Those are competitive grants?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's that. And then I met with risk management, the agent from VLCT. It was basically a test to see how much I knew.
Pass?
I did. So, yeah, everything he talked about, I already knew about, so. I did learn a couple new things. So cybersecurity is a big thing right now. Risk management can also vet like contractors for contractors, contracts for contractors. So any type of contract, if you put something out to bid, they'll look at it for us, which I didn't realize that. Non-cover claims too. So like somebody runs into our guardrails, if we have their name, we can go after their insurance for that damage. And, they encourage us to do that. So contaminated wells, so any risk exposures, so like salt contamination might, if you're close to the road. And, I asked him certain questions and I'm like, well, what about chloride? And he goes, oh, never thought of that. It's not in there. We should probably ask about that. So I'm like, but that was a good meeting. And then, of course, I met with Wade down at Gravel Pit on the next day. And then we have a report on that too later in the meeting. So that's all I have right now. There is a lot going on.
Sounds like it.
There is a lot going on right now. So we still need people for committees. So please be engaged. Call the office, see what's open. We need folks.
Is there public comment in the room? Mr. Fairman?
Thank you. By the way, about committees, there's an excellent list posted at the co-op just outside the front door to the left with an excellent description of all the committee openings and what the committees do. I suppose it's posted everywhere, but I just happened to see it there.
I believe it's online. I think that's the same one that's on there, isn't
It's
it?
online and there's copies here at Town Hall in the hallway.
Okay, a brief point and a brief question. The brief point is the American Legion in Brattleboro will properly and honorably dispose of all flags that are brought to them. I know others may, but it came up for me recently and I called them and they said, sure, bring it in. In my case, with just one, they said, leave it with the bartender.
Yeah.
And, but, they said, we do this.
Right.
So there you are for that. The sign package, could the town manager please tell the public, sign package, sign of what?
So basically they're road construction signs. So they're on tripods and some have lights. I haven't seen them and I don't know how many signs were in that package. But I know when we had the July 29th storm, it was like we didn't have enough signs. So the sign package was a gift.
So they're portable.
They are
Portable
portable,
signs.
yes, yes. So, yeah, I should go down and check them out, Mr. Fairman. I don't know if they're like road closed or road construction. I just, presuming they're regular road construction signs.
Sure, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there public comment online about the town manager's report? I don't see any. Is there any further discussion on the board? All right, moving on to select board items, new business. The first one is, we have Kathleen Hege, who is the president of Rescue Inc., I believe, right? Has generously agreed to come and talk to us about Rescue Inc. So,
Good evening.
hi.
Hi.
So, does anybody else want to start, or do you want me to dive right in? Does anybody? Okay. I asked some specific questions of Kathleen, and she wrote a very comprehensive email back to me. Thank you for that. So I will, so that everybody's on the same page, do you want me to just read what you emailed me, or do you want me to ask the question and you can respond publicly?
It's probably easier just for you to read it.
Okay, all right. So the questions I asked was, does Rescue Inc. reserve the right to reject a town's appointee as a trustee to their board? What role does a town designated trustee have on the board that relates to the town they are from specifically? Is it the expectation of the board that town designated trustees hold the interest of Rescue Inc. in higher regard than the interests of the town they are from? Can Rescue Inc. dismiss a trustee for any reason? Can a town recall a town designated trustee? And is there a requirement in our contract with Rescue Inc. that we must appoint a trustee? So Kathy wrote back and she said, it's my pleasure to try and help the Putney Select Board understand Rescue Inc. and its workings. Only twice in my tenure has Rescue Inc. rejected a town's appointee. One was because of a conflict of interest. The appointee worked for a competing ambulance service. The other was an ex-employee who left the agency under unfavorable circumstances when she was found to have violated workplace policies. The board expects of itself and its members ethical and businesslike conduct. This commitment includes proper use of authority and appropriate decorum in group and individual behavior when acting as board members. From our bylaws, section 13, Code of Conduct. To be honest, we are looking at amending our bylaws to include some type of membership approval of individuals who sit on the board of trustees. There is no specificity to a trustee's role as it relates to their hometown other than to act as a liaison between the two. For example, right now, as I'm sure you have heard, the situation that has arisen with Brattleboro is causing many questions within the other towns. It would be expected that a Putney rep would answer any questions that you might have about how the situation might impact you, or get the answers if they don't know. Their role is to be a direct information link to their town. Your third question is a little more difficult to answer. It would be our hope that the two are not mutually exclusive, interests of the town versus interests of Rescue. By keeping Rescue healthy, well-equipped, and financially sound, your representative will be helping to guarantee that the citizens of Putney receive the care that they need at the most critical times in their lives. Our bylaws do say that trustees must represent Rescue with non-conflicted loyalty, and that does in fact mean that reps should put the needs of Rescue above any personal agendas. But rest assured that every town rep is sensitive to the cost of service in their respective town. Sorry, I've lost my spot. This also means that there is more to Rescue than just financial considerations. Again, going to the Brattleboro issue, the board had to decide between losing significant revenue from Brattleboro to shifting the cost of that lost revenue to the remaining towns. At no time was cost shifting ever an option. We are a community-based organization and will fill that void through changes to our business model. The trustees can dismiss a member under certain circumstances. From our bylaws, section 8, removal of absent trustees. Any trustee may be removed from the board for cause by an affirmative vote of the majority of trustees present at an official meeting of the board. A trustee who misses 4 scheduled board meetings in any 12-month period or who fails to adhere to the board's code of conduct is subject to removal. Notice of the proposed removal will be given to members with the notice of the meeting. The trustee involved will be given an opportunity to be present and to be heard at the meeting at which his or her removal is considered. As far as the town recalling a trustee, the answer is yes. Your appointment needs to be renewed annually, usually after town meeting, when you do all of your town appointments like Windham Regional Windham Solid Waste, and the weighers of coal. Your appointment is entirely up to you, and you can choose not to appoint anyone. There is no stipulation in the contract that you must appoint a representative. As a community-based organization, a representative gives you a voice in the critical EMS service that your citizens receive. Putney has always been active on the rescue board. Our technical rescue team has many members from the town of Putney. I hope that we continue to have active participation for Putney on our board of trustees as well. So hopefully that answered some questions. Do other board members have questions?
I'm wondering, Kathy, we had the circumstance of which I've been on the select board for a number of years, and we have not previously had the circumstance of having more than one person interested in that role. Can you comment on whether you've had that with other towns, and if so, how that was addressed at either through rescue or through the towns, if you're aware?
I know it has happened at least one time in one other town. Rescue is not actually involved in the appointment of the representatives. So the towns can reach out, we can give them guidance from our bylaws, but it's really up to the town to make the decision as to the person who would be most likely to represent the town and to be that liaison that the town needs. Could you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sorry.
thank you.
Okay, I was just curious.
Karen, I know you had some questions too, and I did not print yours out. Did you?
Yeah, my question was regarding, let me see, what was it?
It was the difference between the at-large, the
Yes.
appointed trustees, and the representatives.
Right. So the at-large trustees are in a different capacity and role. But the town representative obviously is different. Now, Kathy, if we have 3 candidates, right?
Correct.
Can they fill those other positions?
They could not fill the membership positions because that has to be a volunteer, an active volunteer at the agency right now, unless one of the members were to be a part of the technical rescue team, they would not be able to fill that role. The at-large positions are basically normally a professional from the community who is bringing some type of expertise to the board. Again, I don't know who your candidates are, whether they would fit in that role or not, but they could certainly apply for those roles if they thought they were appropriately interested in providing their expertise to the board.
Sorry, can I just clarify? I think you at first said that they need to be an active member of Rescue Inc., but then it sounded like maybe you meant or maybe you said or an affiliate. Just to clarify, because you said if members of our rescue team.
Okay, they're basically they're volunteer reps who serve on the board. They're elected by the membership.
Right.
And so if they're a member of the technical rescue team, they're a volunteer. They are, in fact, a driver, something to that effect, where they're participating with rescue, but are not being paid by rescue.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And how are the at-large members picked?
How are they picked?
Yeah.
They're basically nominated at the annual meeting and they're voted on by the entire membership.
But
So in other words,
I mean, like, do they present themselves as candidates, or?
they can do that. They can reach out to one of the members of the board currently, and they would be again added to the membership roster until such time as the board or the membership would vote at the annual meeting. So it can be anyone, the at-large. They just would have to approach one of us and say they were interested in the position, and then we would add their name to be voted on in November.
And do you typically have openings for those?
For the at-large?
Yes.
Yes, there are 6 positions, and they're shortly will be 2 of those positions that are filled. So there's currently 4 vacancies.
That won't be filled until November, did you say?
No, well, no, officially in November is when they're voted upon. They can come in and become familiar with the agency and be active until that time, but the official term would begin in November.
So I guess my follow-up question is if this board didn't want to choose between 3 people, so it's in the end, and we ended up sending all 3 to you, what would your process be?
Well, the process, you're going to have to appoint one as a member, a rep to the town of Putney. I mean, that's your role is to appoint the rep. If the other 2 wish to apply for either the at-large position or as an active volunteer member of the organization, they would need to approach the board to do so.
So I guess I have one question, Kathy. So if somebody was, let's just say, on, the Swiftwater rescue team or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they would be able to just come to you?
They would be able to become a membership rep. And
Okay.
that one, they would have to put their name in to be voted upon in November.
Okay.
And are there typically vacancies in those? Is there a limited number? I'm assuming there's a limited number of those as well. Are there typically vacancies?
There are typically vacancies. We have up to 3 vacancies for the membership rep. Only 1 seat is currently filled.
So there's potential for all 3 to be
Different
right
members
in a
through
different
different
capacity.
avenues. Yeah.
Correct.
That's not really our,
No, it's just a, no.
No,
But it's
we're
just a point, just a
saying.
point of interest.
yeah.
So we do have 3 candidates.
Yeah.
Mr. Howard Fairman, Ms. Heather Small, and Mr. Richard Downs.
So Kathy, you said that you had a situation previously where a member, or not a member, but an appointee was turned down because they were a member of a competing ambulance service. Would that always be the case, or do you occasionally have members of competing ambulance services sit on the board?
We've never had anyone that I'm aware of from a competing ambulance service on the board. Just like you have to go into executive session to discuss financial issues at times, other issues, personnel issues, that becomes kind of a conflict. Plus, we are a union shop. So that in and of itself makes a difference as well.
So I wonder whether that would be a potential criteria for any part of our decision-making process. Because if we were to appoint, I believe we have one interested person who is a member of a different ambulance service, is that correct?
What do they consider a competing, any ambulance service or out of state, or how does that?
Yeah, what is
A town,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Golden Cross would be one thing, but
Right.
a town that has its own ambulance service, which I can't think of one right now, but, I mean, is it just other competing private ambulance services, or?
We've never had the question come up as far as the fire service or a municipal service. It's always been the other private ambulance services in the area. We had an issue with Deluzio, for example. We had one of their members wanted to serve on the board, and it was a conflict for us because we actually compete in the town of Chesterfield.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Did you send us your conduct code of conduct? Is that something that we've already seen,
Bylaws we have.
but the code of conduct piece specifically?
The code of conduct is in the bylaws.
And is that something that we already,
Yes.
we did get that, okay.
Yes. That was in a different package.
Yeah, I'll have to go back through and find which one it was.
I know.
Anybody have any other questions that might clarify the process?
My only other question might be any guidance from your point of view, Kathy, about qualifying, just any suggestions about the type of board members that you're looking for to help us make a decision about who might be a good representative of the town?
Well, right now, we're needless to say in the middle of to put it mildly, a shakeup. There's a lot of decisions that are going to have to be made in the very short term as to what our business model is going to look like once it all shakes out. At this point in time, we need some energy, to be honest with you. The board is getting older, and it would be really helpful if we could have some young energy.
Okay. Laura Campbell, you have your hand up?
I missed the name of the third candidate. Richard someone?
Richard Dobbs.
Which he goes by Rory Tom, is that correct?
What's his last name?
Yes.
Dobbs,
I
D-U-B-B-S.
think you do. Yeah, we have a letter from him.
Yes.
Did you get your answer, your question answered?
I'm not sure. What's the last name?
Dubbs, D-U-B-B-S.
Dobbs. Got it.
And I just want to be on record as saying that energy is a good thing that we can consider, but we can't consider age. That would be illegal. So, but it's really good to hear kind of where the organization is and what kind of things you're looking for. Yeah.
Well, like I said, if there are any questions that come up, I'll be happy to email them and answer them whenever I can. It's just right now, things are just in so much turmoil with rescue, and it's going to take a while to settle it down. So any help we can get from the town of Putney is going to be welcome.
Okay. Mr. Farron.
First and foremost, what unmentioned here is every trustee of any organization has several fiduciary duties under the law for which he or she is personally liable. This has nothing to do with the organization. It is simply, these are the fiduciary duties of trustees. And of course, this ranks above anything else.
Is there any other public questions in the room? Are there more public questions online? Heather Small.
Hi there. I just had a question for Kathy about Rescue's mission statement. I can't find that anywhere.
It's on the front page of the website. I can't tell you what it is off the top of my head.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Heather, I assume you're done? Your hand is still up. Are you all set?
I am. I'm just doing a struggle.
Okay, that's okay. All right, so sounds like we've got some information and we can move forward not next week, the week after, whenever the next meeting is. So is everybody?
Well, you do have a meeting next week.
Is it next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's next week.
22nd, you have a work session.
The plan, yeah.
Well, I guess it is next week.
We should put it on the agenda.
No, let's not do that.
Yeah.
No, let's not mix up the.
Right.
That's the goal setting session.
Yes.
Yeah, let's concentrate on setting some goals. I was was about to say something, I forgot what it was. So I think we've wound down this discussion. We've gotten some good information. Kathy, do you have anything else that you think would be informative for us?
Not that I can think of. If you do, make a decision, you can certainly let the other candidates know that there are different types of positions available.
Yes.
And they can reach out directly to me or to the office at Rescue to find out more information about when the meetings are and how they might go about filling one of those other positions.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Furman?
Madam Chair, I just realized that I do have another question for Ms. Hege. Ms. Hege, I am a candidate for Town of Putney Trustee of Rescue Inc. And when the Select Board sent candidacies to your board, I received an email from your, I believe, Director of Administration saying that I was invited to a meeting on June 21st when I would be interviewed. So given that you have stated that Rescue is not actually involved in the appointment of representatives, and speaking to the Town of Putney Select Board, your role is to appoint the rep. What is the purpose of the interview?
That request was made at the behest of the Select Board. They asked the Rescue trustees to do interviews with at that time, 2 candidates. We responded. I was out of town at that point in time. We responded that we would be happy to do that on the 21st of June. In the interim, the request was withdrawn from the Select Board, and so those interviews never took place.
Thank you.
Can I make a clarification? Because I'm not going to let the board sit here and take that. So Kathy, I was the one that sent the 2 candidates to Ellen Walsh.
Mhm.
I had a phone conversation with Ellen, and I said, we have 2 candidates, not sure, how to proceed because we've never had this before. And I needed to get clarity on the process. And I says, we don't really know what to do. And she goes, well, just send them over here. We'll set up an interview with the 2 candidates. And that's what I did. I sent them over. That office set up the interviews, but this board did not do that.
Okay.
It was me.
Okay.
So, and I'll take that responsibility, and because I had the conversation with Ellen. So whether we were if it was a misstep on my part, I'll take the responsibility and I'll be accountable for it, but that's the way it went down.
Okay, as I said, I never spoke to you. I was out of town when that request was made. And all I know is that it was then rescinded, so.
Well, I just don't want my board to, be under fire for something that they actually didn't do.
Okay.
Sounds like an honest miscommunication.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you, Ken.
you're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, in the course of the conversation about rescuing, things became very
Right.
loud on
Right.
all sorts of fronts, and so that happened, and we did as a select board say we didn't think the interview should happen. I believe
Right.
we voted on it, but we did say that. So
Right.
so that part we did decide, but
And I canceled them. I
Yeah.
called the office and did that as
Yeah.
well, so.
Sorry, we saw clarification
Right.
from council about that as
Yeah.
well, as to whether
Right.
that should occur.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Fairman.
Madam Chair, just to clarify, when I asked the question about the interview, it was simply out of curiosity. It was not intended to imply anything other than I was curious, since I got an email and I was asking a person who would know the answer to my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy, since you're still here, so that meeting on the 21st, can you briefly describe the nature of it?
What do you mean by?
Your Rescue Inc. is having a meeting on the 21st?
That is our regular board meeting, and at this point in time, there's absolutely nothing on the agenda having to do with an appointment from Putney.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering what the nature, so that's a regular board meeting. Are your regular board meetings open to the public?
No.
Okay, thank you. Is there time reserved for public comment or public questions during your board meetings?
Any questions can certainly be addressed to me as the chair of the board, and I will bring them forward at the meeting.
Submitted in advance.
Yes, please.
Great, thank you.
All right. Any more discussion on board? Mr. Curran?
Just to clarify there, Mr. Laughlin, Rescue Inc. is a 501c3 charitable organization. They are not a public body under the Vermont Open Meeting Law.
Yeah, I just didn't know. Some 501c3s choose to have open portions of their meetings and some don't, so I just was curious.
They do. I just wanted to mention that there's no legal obligation that they do so.
Right.
The way one finds out about their affairs is they are required by the IRS to submit a Form 990, where it says where it's emphasized in the top right-hand corner of the first page, this form is subject to public inspection.
Yeah.
And one can look at any of them online. They are very informative because they include a financial statement, which must be reconciled on the form to their audited financial statements.
Yeah.
All right, is there any other comments in the room or online? All right, hearing none, let's move on. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day and out of Rescue Inc.'s time as well. I hope things get settled soon.
Thank you. I hope so too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the Putney Fire Department Memorandum of Understanding with Rescue Inc. regarding the rescue boat. I assume that's you, Tom?
Everybody has the memo that I sent to Karen, as well as you folks, and then a copy of the MOU between us and Rescue. Essentially, with the repairs being forecasted that are going to be required for our existing boat, which we've had since 1995.
Yeah.
So that's however old at this point, and then before we bought it from Brattleboro, they had it for at least 12, 15 years.
Oh.
So it's going to need some repairs if we're going to continue to use it as we always have and as we need to. Obviously, the cost is disproportionate to the actual value of the boat. And in talking things over with Drew at Rescuing, the Chief of Operations at Rescue, he and I tossed back and forth the idea of Rescuing actually housing one of their boats in our firehouse to replace our existing boat. Along with that, there would come training and education for our folks in order to be able to operate the boat, both in collaboration with and as well as not in addition to or not in conjunction with Rescuing members. We can run the boat ourselves. Within the MOU, it states clearly what that training will look like. There's some training that we're responsible for. There's some training that Rescuing will provide to us through their tech team. All the training is in accordance with and compliant with water rescue training that's set forth by the Vermont State USAR team. Rescuing will own the boat. They'll take care of insurance, registration, so on and so forth. We can use it as we see appropriate. We'll work with Rescuing as well at different functions with those of our folks that are certified to operate the boat. So at this point, we're looking for a number one approval to sell our boat. And then right along with that, for us to sign up the MOU with Rescue Inc. and get that ball rolling.
So, is there a cost, is it a rental or a lease in effect, or, so it's just covered under our current contract with Rescue Inc.?
No, it is, well,
I mean, it would be,
yes,
the cost of maintaining.
yes.
I think, I mean, in general, the idea is that it would be a mutually beneficial
Exactly.
agreement,
boat
so they have a
there,
place to
right.
house it
Okay,
in a location that's
And-
useful.
And which is one of Drew's wishes is to begin to distribute assets as it makes sense. And this corridor certainly makes sense for that.
so do you anticipate other pieces of equipment being housed?
No, there's no discussion of that at this time at all.
Just
No,
wondering,
no,
okay.
no.
Where'd you get the estimate from for the cost of the repairs?
Through,
Do you have a copy of that?
no, it was all verbal, just pricing out the plywood alone as well as the hardware.
So I have any questions, if I may? Sorry to put you on the spot, Tom, because I do it late. So how much work has been done on the boat, like, in the last year or so? Have you put money into it?
Well, we do it, yeah, just general maintenance to it.
Okay.
I.e. batteries, replace the oil, the lower end oil, on the motor. There's always just different maintenance things, just like anything else.
So in our fixed assets module, I did find a number, it says 5,000, but I'm not gonna rely on that because I don't know.
5,000 for the value of the boat,
Yes.
which is what we paid for it originally.
That's what we paid.
So I don't know if that module is current. And I did not find any value in our insurance. So, I'm not a boat person, so I'm gonna rely on Tom on that one. So in your memorandum, so the Putney Firefighters Association purchased the boat, is this correct? So when you sell that boat, where is that money going? Is it going into the Putney Fire Association or Putney?
I was assuming the general fund.
Okay, I was just making sure. Or just not making sure, but just asking a question. A few other questions too I had. So all the education costs to run this boat, how many people do you think are gonna man that boat or train to be on that boat? And which truck is gonna transport the boat?
People-wise, we've got 5 that would be certified to operate it.
That are currently certified.
Yeah. And then, at least another 8, 10 that will become certified.
Is it a substantially similar boat to the one that we have now?
No, it's totally different.
Okay.
It's totally different.
But the certification process would be the same, presumably.
No, it'll be more than what we do now, because of the differences in the boat and the way it functions.
Do you have any idea what the cost would be for the education?
There, other than folks being paid for their time, there won't be.
And how long a course is it?
Drew's still figuring that out, but we're talking probably 10 hours-ish.
Okay.
Who does the certification?
Rescue Inc. will be doing it.
And which truck is gonna be pulling that boat?
Any one of the 3 that can pull it now. Either the brush truck, the squad, or my truck.
All right.
And the town of Putney is gonna be responsible for taking it other places for Rescue Inc. if they need it?
Yep. No, they're
Exclusively or not?
No, not exclusively. And the reality is with the assets that Rescue has and those that are coming to them, specific to water rescue and boats, the likelihood of this particular boat leaving here to go somewhere else is pretty nil. As a matter of fact, the last two flooding events that have occurred, the significant flooding events that have occurred, the boats have been coming to us. So that trend likely staying the same, this boat will stay right here.
Where are the boats? I mean, so we have one, does Westminster contract with rescue as well?
No.
So is it Rocky? Is anybody else up, what direction, north? Contract with rescue?
Northwall, no,
There's not.
nobody with rescue.
Okay.
No.
I'm just wondering what the distribution is along, I'm assuming you mostly use it on the Connecticut River.
Right.
Just wondering what the distribution of boats was.
Yeah, and that,
North of us.
again, the last two flooding events, we've had issues along the East Putney Brook. We've had a couple other issues, and the swamp being one of them, that right now, our boat, we can't put out on the swamp. And we know it's all just.
School forest?
Yeah. Or from there down to the dam. And we know, we've been saying for several years, the amount that area gets used. It's only a matter of time before we end up being called out there for something. So this would actually enhance our ability to do that.
So this new boat is capable of doing
Oh,
it?
absolutely.
The other spot is down off River Road too, right? That we can't get our boat into right now, but the other one you can. Is it down by the field or the bridge or something down there?
That would be a flooded zone of the Connecticut though,
Yeah.
I think is what, basically that area between the
Right,
tracks.
right.
and-
Oh, yeah.
So it would be
Yes.
it would be Connecticut floodplains.
Yeah.
But there are certainly other locations, I mean, I think of, up on Holland Hill, for example, that swamp, I mean, if we had to put a boat in, there are other places where it might be necessary.
Is there further discussion among the board? Or questions? Mr. Farman?
A question, I believe, for the chief. You mentioned that the boat we have now can't go into Wilson wetland, but the new boat can. Is that because the new boat is what in the south is called an airboat?
No, it's a boat designed specifically for shallow water, swift water rescue functions. The boat we have now is a 21-foot pontoon boat that's is not designed to do anything basically other than the river or a large body of water.
And the one that would be coming in is just a standard outboard on it, or is it something different?
Well, in theory, it's an outboard. It's not a standard one by any means, but it's an outboard designed for water and swift water rescues.
So as far, I think, Mr. Fairman, you would still have to have a prop in the water, so it would limit access to certain areas, but I think it's the cumbersome nature of the pontoon.
Right, exactly.
That limits its ability to be used elsewhere.
Okay, is there any other questions among the board? Are there any questions online? Are there other questions in the room? All right, does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the fire chief's request to sell our existing pontoon boat for the amount of, with a minimum bid of $3,000 being established, and to enter into a memorandum of understanding with rescuing for watercraft storage and use on the parking,
Do I have a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the fire department to sell our existing boat for a minimum bid of $3,000 and to enter a memorandum of understanding regarding water storage and use with Rescue Inc. Is there further discussion among the board?
Just one more question. I don't want the motion to hamper it. It would be a minimum bid of $3,000 being requested. What if we don't get that? would you sell it for less than 3? Or?
Yeah, I mean, just like any other term like this, we may have to settle for less.
Okay, so I just want to enter that into the discussion, that would be a minimum bid request, but it wouldn't be a.
It wouldn't be a guarantee.
Exactly. So I don't know whether the board would want it. I mean, I'm comfortable, given that we paid 5 for it 17 years ago. I would think
We've had the use.
we've gotten, yeah.
Do we need to amend the motion, or?
I don't think so, as long as we've had the conversation. I mean, it's a minimum bid of 3,000 being
It does say
established, but it doesn't say as a minimum per se. Well,
It kind of does.
yeah, let's see.
That's how I read it, so I mean, that's how I understood it.
Okay, so I will offer a friendly amendment that we approve the request of the fire chief to sell our current existing pontoon boat and enter into a memorandum of understanding. And I would not enter into the motion the amendment of the bid.
Does anyone want to, it's a friendly amendment, so I don't think we technically need to second it, but
You're
does the
comfortable
seconder
with that as a friendly
feel good
amendment?
with that? That's, okay.
I have another suggestion, that when we refer to the memorandum of understanding, we refer to this one, with the text, as opposed to a memorandum of understanding generally.
So the memorandum of understanding that's been presented to us
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah. Technicality, but
Is the seconder okay with that?
Yes, I'm
All
fine
right.
with that.
So, it's been moved and seconded to authorize the chief to sell our existing boat and to enter into a memorandum of understanding, the memorandum of understanding presented to us for water storage and use. Is that correct? Yes? Okay. Is there further discussion among the board? Is there any comment? Oh, okay, we've got 2 people who've just raised their hand. I'm gonna call on Mary Quinn because you haven't spoken yet. First.
I may have missed something in the conversation, but I wondered who insures this boat? And
Rescue does.
Will.
rescue does. So if something happened to it, if something happened to it in our fire station, like say the fire station had a fire, would that be would our insurance cost, with our insurance, whatever liability be increased because that boat is in there, or whatever damage happens to it is still would be rescues.
This is all vetted through VLCT.
Yeah.
So now, honestly, in a case like that, there is no straight up answer. If there was a fire in the firehouse, there's no straight up answer as to who's going to cover what. It would depend upon a number of different things, and essentially at the end of the day, the insurance companies would be
talking to one another.
Would be having discussions.
But I think that.
But in theory, rescuing's insurance would cover the boat.
Right.
And trailer and motor, period.
But I think maybe the nature of your question, Mary, is would it alter the amount of our premium for our existing insurance? And the answer is no.
No, okay.
That's what I wanted. With the state hazmat truck that's there.
Right.
That has no issue, that creates no issues with that.
Okay. Thank you.
So Heather, you have your hand up?
Yeah, and maybe I didn't hear the answer. Maybe it was already given. It was my understanding that the association bought the boat, but the money's going to go to the general fund and not back to the association.
That's
that was my question.
That's our understanding.
Okay, I don't know how that worked. So if somebody could educate me, I would be very grateful.
You mean as far as Karen? Do you want to try to just? I mean, does it make sense that if it was bought by the association, it would go back to the general fund?
Well, that's why I asked the chief the question. If that boat has been sitting in the fire department for this many years and our on-call folks or the chief have
That
been
get paid.
maintaining it,
Right.
then,
And the reason I said tonight that it would go to the general fund is because of past experience when that concept of it coming back to, i.e. the brush truck, our old ladder, there were instances, some other equipment, there were some instances that it was not received real well to have that money come back to the association.
right.
I mean, my general recollection of how the association works is that when they make purchases, they purchase those essentially as donations to the fire department. I mean, they purchase things, but then those purchases are not owned by the association,
Right,
they're owned by the town,
Right.
exactly.
And I assume the town has paid for the maintenance and the upkeep and the insurance.
And the insurance.
Yeah, so.
Yes.
1 second. Heather, do you have a follow-up or?
No, I was just listening. My apologies. Let's see if I
Okay,
can-
that's fine. Mr. Farren.
Having some experience in these matters, I'll offer this. When two insurers cover the same uncontested loss, they usually simply go halves on the payment of the claim.
Okay, is there any more questions online? Any questions in the room? Any more questions on the select board?
I guess number 12.
Number
Come back to that.
12,
In
sorry.
the MOU.
Yep. As part of the Regional Mutual Aid Response System, Putney Fire Department agrees to transport the boat and associated equipment to any area within or outside of the primary response jurisdiction, Putney Fire Department when requested.
So is that the fire department's taking it? If they go rescues called for it somewhere, or they're gonna
Yeah,
come get it?
or if another jurisdiction calls for it, yeah.
So the fire department's gonna be responsible for taking it. Rescue's not coming to get it if they need it.
Either way, that's just indicating that we acknowledge that we will do that if requested.
Okay with that? Okay. Any other questions?
I think I have one. So given number 12, Tom, is that something that's billable if it's like,
All depends on circumstances.
all right, so if we bill,
Typically, it's gonna be under just a routine mutual aid request. So no, we don't bill for that. Nobody does.
And that's addressed, well, I mean, I don't know whether it's separate but in 13, it's addressed, any boat responses during these times will be provided via mutual aid.
okay.
And is that the way it is now?
Yeah.
So it's not really a change.
No, not at all.
I would think the one exception to that might be if there was, an incident that was caused by gross neglect of
Right.
a personal or an entity that was insured, and we might try and
Sure.
bill insurance,
Yeah.
but that would be an outlier.
Right, that's not, that, in all reality and fairness, that would be up to the jurisdiction that we responded to.
Right.
If
If
they're not, then,
Yeah.
then no.
Okay. Are there any other questions among board? Any more questions online? Any more questions in the room? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we don't sign anything here, right? Looks like just you and, okay. All right, so the next piece is.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Tom, can you just give me a copy when it's all signed?
Oh, that's.
Thank you.
Okay, the next piece is VTrans design consultant review and approval for Putney Landing sidewalk extension. This is Pip.
Thank you for staying, Pip.
You recall that the town of Putney was awarded a $20,000 grant to do a sidewalk study from Putney Landing to the sidewalk network. Moving forward in that process, we put out advertisements for engineering consultants. We have received only one response. So part of the process is that the Planning Commission and the Select Board are on the selection committee. The choice is pretty simple. You have one choice. You either accept that consultant or we don't, and we redo the whole process. They are Dufresne Group. They're vetted by the state. They're on a list of pre-qualified engineering consultants. We didn't go in the direction of using pre-qualified consultants. It's a minor issue, but Stevens and Associates in Brattleboro are not on that list, but they assisted us in the preparation of the budget materials for the grant. So in order to sort of reciprocate for that act of generosity, I wanted to make sure they had an opportunity to bid. So it was an open bid, but the only firm we got happens to be one of the pre-qualified types. So I would think that the proposal was very thorough and thoughtful, and my conversation with them has been very prompt. I just keep filling them in on where they are in our process, and I get a very positive response. So I took that as a good indication that their interest is still there. So I would like requesting that the Select Board approve the selection of the Frame Group as the engineers to work with the town on the fulfillment of the Transportation Alternatives Grant.
So moved.
Second? Okay, it's moved and seconded to approve the Dufresne Group. Dufresne. I knew I was going to say that. Dufresne Group for these walkways for the study for planning. Is there discussion on the board?
I just have a quick question. A disadvantaged business enterprise, this particular group, is it because the VP is a woman? Is that, what does that mean? In the letter to Karen.
I don't know.
Does anybody know? Karen, do you
know? I don't know, we have to go online and find out.
I'm just curious what that meant.
I don't know.
Okay, I'll look it up at some point.
I mean, I didn't read every single word here, but I skimmed it, and it seems like it's pretty comprehensive. So I think they'll do a good job.
They have a good local reputation. They've worked with a number of towns. I don't think we've had them apply. I think we've had them submit bids before. I seem to recall that, but they have worked with Brattleboro and other their references.
Did they not work on the water system?
I feel like we worked with them on something, but I can't remember.
I think they did the assessment of wastewater treatment plant.
That could be true.
Yes, the assessment report.
Is there any other questions on the board? All right, Laura Campbell, you had your hand up.
Yes, I finally learned how to put my hand up. And I was just wondering, are you saying Dufresne Group?
It's Dufresne. I said it wrong the first time. It's spelled Dufresne, but it's pronounced Dufresne.
Okay. And they're the single candidate that's vetted by the state?
Yes. They're the single candidate we got, and they happen to also be on the pre-qualified list.
Thank you for clarifying.
I'm just curious, Pip, in this, I don't want to open up a whole different discussion, but if they're in town doing walkway scoping study for us on this, are there other walkways we should be thinking about having them look at?
The scope of the work as described in the grant was pretty limited.
Narrow.
However, we have this sort of one-time opportunity at the beginning of the conversation with them to clarify the scope of the work. So I prepared a very basic sketch that suggests that there might be other sidewalks in that area and would like to have a conversation with them about the extent to which the $25,000 can go for that study. The primary objective is to address the pedestrian connection
This
from Putney
issue.
Landing to the
Yeah.
sidewalk. But in the process of doing that, issues will come up that I think could be addressed. Karen suggested evaluating a sidewalk on the Rod Mobile side that would extend north, perhaps to the bank. There's also the idea of the sidewalk that was part of the DRB findings for the Windham Windsor Housing Trust. If that project were to go through, there's a sidewalk as part of that would connect to the sidewalk by the co-op and extend around the perimeter of their lot down to Route 5 by the fire station, ending in sort of no man's land. So I've thrown in a sidewalk there and a crossing to the fire station, to the park and ride, maybe a sidewalk on the side opposite the fire station, because it looks as though the resolution of it as you go north is going to be less messy than the resolution of a sidewalk on the fire station side as it goes north, ends up, in the problematic area. But that's what I hope that the engineers will address, is a solution that will provide for the Putney Landing pedestrian network should be future looking and anticipate these other needs. So I my fingers crossed that it'll be a good conversation and we can broaden the discussion.
Mr. Carmen, you had your hand up earlier.
Yes. First, I can mention that as a native of Springfield, I remember when the original Mr. Dufresne and Mr. Henry would pave your driveway for you.
That's right.
And eventually they grew the firm into the leading civil engineering firm in New England. Then it was bought by a Canadian firm who pulled it out of Springfield, and there were people who didn't want to leave, and they simply became the Dufresne Group. So these people have, I can say, a storied history. Also, I should mention, as a Putney Landing resident, I know that Windham and Windsor Housing Trust told us that they have access to a grant to build a sidewalk from Putney Landing. So I don't know any more details about it, but you could look into it with someone from there, such as Peter Paggi, who's the development director, because there may be some additional money that they could kick in. Finally, I have skimmed through the scoping study, and I guess a question for Mr. Bannister. My understanding from the study and from what you have said is that the sidewalk would run down toward Putney Landing Road and cross over somewhere up there. Am I correct?
Down from Putney Landing, yeah, maybe that would
Maybe the
help.
other way around, like up to, say, Rods or beyond Rods, right?
Yeah, okay, I've got it right here, proposed path. Okay, now interestingly, this is the same routing that we got from Windham and Windsor Housing Trust as residents of Putney Landing. They said they were looking at that. I would simply note that there would have to be a crosswalk across a state highway because Putney Landing Road to I-91 is a state highway, and of course Route 5 is. So the principal issue there may be getting them to authorize a crosswalk at that point. Because we know down on Putney Road in Brattleboro, getting them to allow a crosswalk is a job and a half. So thank you, my question has been answered. It's the same routing that we were shown before.
I think there's some confusion that there is, as part of the grant application, a questionnaire was prepared by Windham Windsor Housing Trust and sent around. The graphic materials may have included that sketch that I had prepared as part of the grant application. So I'm not sure that there's an independent Windham Windsor Housing Trust study. We've been working directly with Peter Paggi in the preparation of the grant. So I think that may, Mr. Family, may have been the information that you saw earlier. was the same information that was in the grant.
So, and this is a scoping study, it's not, there's no money in this to actually build anything, it's just that this is the first
Right,
step.
but the state's process, which those of us who have been around a while and have done
We
the
need to do this
sidewalk.
first, yeah.
The Chinese bureaucracy associated with the sidewalks, the state, to continue the funding process, would like to have a very thoughtful, professionally prepared estimate of the cost and preferred alternatives is their language. So an understanding of the rights of way issues associated with whatever alternatives are that emerge as part of the process. And this, the intention of this Transportation Alternatives Grant is to create the materials that will allow us to move forward to resolve the sidewalk issues, but it's not going to get us the sidewalk.
Okay, yep. Okay, Karen, do you wanna?
Yeah, I just have one comment that I should have mentioned earlier. Windham Regional Commission has put traffic counters on Carroll Brown Way and Alice Holloway. They'll be up for a couple weeks, so when I get those stats, I will share them with the Planning Commission and the Selectboard.
I went over them with my bike the other day, do they count bikes?
Yes, they do.
Awesome.
So.
Cool.
Yep.
Mr. Fairman.
First, there's another counter, it's up on Westminster Road.
Yes, it is,
Front of
yeah.
Meadowdale Farm.
Just on the bike path, right? Or is it
It's on the
across the road?
sidewalk.
That's what I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, sidewalk, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, bike path too, but
Yeah.
I happen to have on foot when I go there. The other thing is, as a Windham and Windsor Housing Trust resident, Putney Landing, I can, I know whom to ask, have they got their own money? And I will ask and report back probably via the town manager. Because this is just a matter of, so you guys got some money too? Yes, we have, no, we haven't.
Right.
Okay, great. Laura, you have your hand up, did you just forget to put it down? Or did you have something to say? Oh, perfect, thank you. All right, is there further discussion on the board?
Did we already make a motion? I
I
can't
believe
remember.
we did,
I think so, too.
and I believe it was seconded.
Yes.
I believe it was too.
Okay. Is there any other comment online? Are there any more questions in the room? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's better.
Okay, VTrans Municipal Roads Grants and Aid Program.
So this is our annual invitation to participate in the Grants and Aid Program. It's very important because of all of our high priority segments that should be fixed. So this does require approval and signature by duly authorized representatives. And each year, the state grants a certain amount of money. So for Putney, we're looking at $33,500 from the state. And then the 20% match is $8,375 for a total of $41,875, which is high. This is like the first year I've seen it this high, so this is good. We always should take advantage of grants like this, especially for our town roads. So basically it's ditching, you know, culverts, and the highway department usually does an in-kind instead of us putting out the $8,375. It's in labor and in equipment. So I would ask the select board to consider this grant.
Make a motion that we approve participation in the SFY 23 Municipal Roads Grants and Aid Program and approve Karen as a signator as necessary.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to participate in the SFY 23 Municipal Roads Grants and Aid Program and to authorize Karen Astley, the town manager, as signatory. Is there discussion among the board?
Yes. Question for Karen. If we participate in this program and look forward potentially to getting a grant under the program, what municipal roads would be involved? Would that be a decision that we would make downstream if we got the grant?
No, so Windham Regional Commission has mapped all of our roads and culverts, and they've also prioritized by condition, which ones need to be done first. So Brian did Holland Hill maybe 2 years ago, and he did the entire road, even though there may not have been, all high priority segments. And with that too, the ditching, depending on the grade of the road, depends on if you put like riprap, the big rocks in there,
Smaller or larger aggregate.
or you put just vegetation. So we have all that mapping from Jeff Nugent's office, and Brian looks at his roads and he decides.
So we don't have to, I'm sorry, but, so we don't have to tell these folks
No.
what roads we intend.
Well, we do once the work has been done, because Jeff will go out and inspect to make sure they're where they need to be. Because this money is supporting us to be able to repair our ditches. And that July 29th storm, certain roads washed out, but where the ditching was done, it saved the roads.
But this largely, Charlie, helps us to be in compliance with state requirements for improvements of roads,
Right.
for the purpose of improving the roadways, but also for the purpose of decreasing runoff into our waterways. So essentially, we have access to this funding because we meet the requirements that the state asks us to meet, and we've been able to take advantage of that consistently. So, and because of the list that's already compiled, we work through that list, and in theory, because there's a deadline for all of this at some point, which I can't remember exactly what
Well,
it is,
there's
but
different
deadlines for different
Yes.
portions of it.
Yes.
But in theory, we try and stay as far ahead so that we stay ahead of those deadlines.
Thanks.
Because otherwise we lose grant opportunities
Right.
if we don't meet the deadlines.
The other thing too I want to mention is, so we had like 60 high priority segments that needed to be taken care of by 2025. So
Really, that's
Yeah.
far away.
No.
Think about it.
No, and being rural Vermont, and the climate change, so the storms are, more intense. So we try to do the work as quick as we can. There's something else I wanted to say.
But those can also, it's a list of 60, and those can range from, 12 of those might have been on Holland Hill.
Right.
They can be 12-foot sections
Right.
that need to be done, but they're all laid out very
Yeah.
specifically how it has to be done, and they basically tell you the type of aggregate or the plantings or whatever.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is.
Okay,
we're already
prescribed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're gonna reevaluate too, and all those segments have to be uploaded into a program online. So-
Database?
Yes, so the state is tracking everyone that is utilizing money. So, yeah, we have to be accountable too,
Right.
to the state. But it's a very good program. Are we gonna get to that goal? We'll see. But with the storm from July 29th, a lot of roads got damaged, and some of those segments can, maybe apply.
Fall into that.
It'll fall into that category, so some of our high priorities might already be done, but they just need to be signed off on. Yeah,
Thanks.
you're welcome.
Is there further discussion among the board? Is there any public comment online? Is there a comment in the room? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Windham County Humane Society contract fiscal year 7/1/22 to 6/30/2023, review and approval.
So it's our annual contract. We're mandated by the state to have a place to bring our stray dogs. Windham Humane Society has been it for many years. I can't tell you how many dogs actually go down there. We used to get reports, so I'm thinking not many. I mean, when I first started in this office, I did see numbers, but I haven't seen them in a long time. So the flat fee is $811. It's up a little bit, but it's relatively low for what they provide, and it's a good service.
I'll make a motion that we approve the contract for animal holding with Windham County Humane Society and that we approve Karen as the authorized agent for signature.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve Windham County Humane Society as a holder for stray dogs. For stray animals, I guess, isn't it? And to authorize Karen Astley, the town manager, as a signatory. Is there discussion on the board? Is there any discussion in the room, Mr. Chairman?
Just a clarification, the town manager said stray dogs. You, Madam Chair, said animals. Which is it?
Well, it's probably,
It's mostly stray dogs. They don't take any aggressive dogs. They will take feral cats. Because there is a program for feral cats.
That's what I was wondering about.
Yes, and they encourage people, to contact them too, if they have them.
it says that it'll accept stray, domestic, canine, and feline animals.
And small domesticated pets, yeah.
Including reptiles and birds found within the town limits. So I guess that, so if people find a snake that does not belong in the town of Putney, they would bring it there. It's happened before.
Right, and they don't deal with wildlife animals or aggressive either. They will not take an aggressive animal.
Is there further comment in the room? Any comment online? Any discussion among the board? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Joint select board meeting, just recap.
It's just a recap. I think it's important that, so basically, it's just basically the minutes, so.
Yeah, so it was, we talked about the long-term costs, we talked about the subdivision.
The subdivision permit that was issued to ABF and campfires, so the town of Dummerston did appeal it. I wrote a letter for appeal. They have a meeting scheduled, development review board meeting is scheduled for June 21st.
Okay.
Which I'm going to attend.
Do you need anybody from select board there?
If somebody wants to join me, that's fine. We can do it as a Zoom as well.
Can we?
Yes, we can.
I can do it if it's Zoom.
Yeah, so we do have that going on. Also, I did inform the Dummerston Select Board today that, and I sent the map. As far as the septic system goes, it has been relocated to a different location, so it's not gonna be by the pond. I went onto the state website, pulled the application and the map.
And so it's pre-approved already?
Yeah.
Or approved already?
It's going to be, yeah. So it's on the flat part of ABF, and it overshadows Campfire's parking lot.
Okay.
So it's a better location for their replacement septic system. And the other thing I noticed, and I'm gonna bring this to the board, and it's gonna be a conversation with Campfires, but it appears there might be a structure on the gravel pit. We need to determine, one, what it is, two, the actual boundary line.
Is there a survey for that piece? Or?
It's got.
Yeah, I think, yes, in Dummerston, they have it all on file. But according to the map, it does look like there could be a potential campsite on the gravel pit.
When you say campsite, you don't mean like a sanctioned campsite from campfires, you just mean somebody's camping out there, or?
No, I mean a camper from the campsite.
So they may think that that's their land?
Yes, so we just need clarity on that.
Yeah.
But that's a conversation. It may come up in the development review board meeting, I don't know yet. But I'm letting the board know there's more going on. And I met with Wade at the pit on Friday. And I have a report too, and I'm pretty sure I sent it to somebody.
You sent a cover letter. Was there more to it than that?
No, it was just that one letter. So Wade instructed Lee Chamberlain and I, and Lee is the road superintendent for Dummerston. We need to define the boundary line between ABF, where the blue building is, and the gravel pit. And we also spoke about moving the gate from the top of the hill to the gravel pit entrance where the towns own it. He also stated for liability and risk, if anybody trespasses, as long as we have no trespassing signs in view, if anyone encroaches on our property and they get hurt, it's not our liability.
So how does that relate, because we had the conversation about posting it.
Right.
How does that, because it's a long boundary. I mean, by the time you work across the ABF part and then down towards the highway.
He stated on the south side, which is right at the entrance.
Okay.
Because we're more concerned right now if.
People wandering in from there.
Yes, right.
So for private land, I believe you have to post it all the way around, and then you have to
Yes,
also register it
correct.
with the town. So I assume it's probably pretty similar for public lands, so it wouldn't just be a trespassing sign at the gate, it would have to be.
There are signs already in the pit around the perimeter where the campgrounds is, so. And on the other side where the other gate is on Winterbell, there's signs over there that say no trespassing.
So he was comfortable that we were covered.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I mentioned the fence too, he goes, you can put up a fence, but until we know what's gonna happen with that piece in
Right.
between ABF and us.
Yeah.
He said signs will take care of it, and there's no risk or liability to us if somebody trespasses and gets hurt.
Okay, and he's satisfied with the number of signs we have?
Yeah, he didn't,
All right.
I'm gonna make sure that we have enough all the way around.
Yeah.
And once we figure out the boundary line situation.
Well, we do need to know where our boundary is, otherwise, yeah. So because in the meeting, we talked about safety issues. And then we also talked about the long-term costs for blasting and crushing, right?
That is correct. So both road superintendents, Brian Harlow and Lee Chamberlain, asked, normally we've been crushing 3,500 cubic yards. They feel we should be crushing at least 5,000 at this point. And then that's gonna increase our budget line item. And I mean, $6.45 cubic yard, so we already have a number, and then we should probably increase it by 3%.
At least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I will do that when we start going into budget discussions.
But we've already approved the budget for next year, so it's
Right, this is
Move
gonna
for the
be,
moment.
this is gonna be for fiscal year '24 that we'll be working on the budget. The blasting is a reserve fund. It was voted on by the people of Putney. We've been putting $19,000 into the reserve fund, and technically should have been putting in another 3%. We have 2 years already in the reserve fund. This will be the third. Lee Chamberlain is working with me. We're getting maps and everything else, any information we can about the blasting that occurred before. And we're thinking that we don't have enough money in that fund either, and we're looking at to increase that to 25,000. So we're hoping by budget season, we'll have like a better number, and then we can gauge, in 3 years, when we have to blast, whether or not we'll have enough. And I believe we're gonna have to go back to the voters
I was
with a
gonna say,
different.
we probably need to vote that,
Yes,
or even if we don't have to, it would probably be wise to.
yes,
And ideally, we put the same amount that Dummerston's putting in, right? So
yes, we would have
try
to.
to,
The other thing too is ARPA funds, because if you have a deficit, we can use money to, afford things like this, and that is something we're gonna need. Whether, we can't predict the weather. I mean, if we have another July 29th storm, unless we pave everything, and then that's not even gonna save some of the roads. And we won't even go there.
No.
No.
Thanks for bringing it up anyway.
We're a dirt road country town. But, so that was the gist of the meeting.
yeah, that's my memory of it. Do you have anything to add? Okay. Is that, Mr. Carmen?
Just a quick question. Has the gravel pit property been surveyed by a Vermont land surveyor?
Yes.
We're asking that, yes, okay.
And how is it that we are unsure about the property line?
I think we just need somebody to
Walk it.
define it for us.
We just need to define, Mr. Fairman.
I mean,
It's
there's-
a matter of fence viewing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right,
there's
right, and finding a
surveys
pin.
and then,
Right.
yeah.
So there's one pin that we can't locate, and everything's grown up top, and it's all like thorny and everything else. And I think with a metal detector, we can find that line.
Also, frost will pull pins over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was marked at all along the way, that'd be easier, but I don't know if it was.
We have measurements from, maps, so
Fixed points,
we just need to walk it.
Yeah.
And I'd like to walk it with campfires owners as well, just so everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, you might want to, I mean, not to point the finger at the other fence viewers, but it should be Dummerston's fence viewers who do this for us. And then, once it's established, then.
Yes, then we
should
can
look at-
take some action.
But that shouldn't be your responsibility.
Correct, I'm not a surveyor, and I don't like walking through the woods, there's so many ticks out
Brambles,
there.
yeah.
There's a lot of ticks, I let Lee go in the bushes.
Okay. Is there comment online? Is there any other comment in the room? Further discussion on the board about the meeting? Okay, moving on to the draft employee handbook rollout review, questions, comments, discussions.
So in your packet is a draft of an employee handbook. Our current personnel policy is dated 2013, it's 14 pages. As you'll notice, this draft is approximately 40 pages without appendices. There's a lot of changes in here. So as state law changes, we should try to keep up with those changes. Again, the select board annually should be reviewing policies and ordinances, so, we're up to date with current changes. This draft right here has been a 3-year project. Alyssa Harlow, our previous administrative assistant, did most of the work. I will tell the board and the public, we utilized VLCT. We started with Windham Regional Commission's employee handbook, and we used that as a base because VLCT reviewed theirs. So as they were working with VLCT, they made changes. I worked with VLCT once I had a draft, and they came back with comments. I've also worked with the Equity and Inclusion Committee on this draft, and they had comments. We instituted some of those as well. Currently, for the last 6 months, I've been working with Jennifer Jacobs at Adaptiva. She is our human resource consultant. So this is very close to being done. There is a page of comments that Jennifer and I spoke about that the board and we need to clarify some things.
The one she's identified in her email?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So I put the page numbers on there. What I would like to have this board do is review it on your time. Look at these questions and comments, and then we come back together on June 29th.
I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Have we been, our existing employee handbook was 2013.
Yes.
Was there any, are we late in getting a new version out?
No.
Okay.
We've been working on this for 3 years,
Oh, okay.
so we're not late to anything.
Just takes that long.
We could have done it sooner, but we didn't, so here we are.
Just
Right.
checking.
Right. This is the
But there's no-
process
but
with
there's
town
no-
government.
And it's not a requirement that we update it, it's just recommended best practice.
I mean, I think as an employer, it's probably a requirement that we update it as far forward. Well, if, state law is changing and
Yes.
it's in direct conflict
Yeah,
with our
good
employee
point.
handbook, I think
All right, I
we
stand
could get
corrected.
ourselves into trouble.
Yes, we can.
Uh-huh.
And, having a employee handbook that has teeth to it,
That's teeth.
yes,
It's really helpful.
it's gonna be very helpful. Because things change and, human resources is a very difficult area. And unless you have a college degree and know what you're doing, you have to seek outside help.
Yeah.
And resources. And sometimes they're not always quick.
Well, this is definitely more comprehensive than what we had before, and I skimmed it, so I'll read it for real the next time. Does
Did we
anybody
have an employment attorney look at this yet?
The LCT has employment entry, I don't know if they specifically had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, they have a whole HR department, right, Charlie? And I work with Jill Muir at the LCT, and that's what they're experienced in.
Okay.
So I'm comfortable with the review that we've had with this.
Do we need Larry to vet it or?
Larry's not an employment attorney, no.
Yeah.
I would not send it to Larry.
Yeah, I would tend to agree.
If this board wanted a final review, I would send it over to VLCT. They would give us a quote on how much it would
Right.
cost.
But if VLCT, they do this for
Yes.
many towns.
That's, and they have their own lawyers that their processes as well, so.
The other thing too is that we can amend this at any time,
Right,
so.
okay.
Okay, well, we'll do our homework.
Thank you.
Is there a public comment online? I thought I saw, I guess I didn't. Okay, just seeing things now. Mr. Fairman.
Just a question, you mentioned that Attorney Slayson is not an employment attorney, but he, I believe, is part of the law firm of Salmon and Nostrum. I'm wondering whether they may have someone else there who is an employment attorney. I'm just suggesting that this could be something to be looked into, as we already have them on a retainer.
We do, in the past, they have had us go through an employment attorney that we requested from VLCT, exactly. So in the past, they have recommended that we go, when they're specific to employment, that we go elsewhere.
Thank you.
So our insurance too, Mr. Fairman, VLCT passive, we're covered through that insurance, and by being referred by VLCT to an employment attorney, it's covered under our insurance.
Of course.
So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, is there any more public comment online? I don't see anybody. Is there further discussion on the board? Everybody promises to read the handbook by next. All right, let's move on to select board unfinished business, membership policy and appointing members to committees and boards.
Can I take this?
Yeah, go for
Yeah.
it.
Okay, so I first want to just send this around. And all this is our policy that you also have a copy of here that was in the packet. And I just want to have a couple conversations related to it. I don't see us taking any action because I think we need to discuss a couple things before we can go any further. And the two things I would like us to discuss are who should this policy cover? Right now, it only covers advisory committees. And I suggest that it be broadened to include committees, boards, and commissions. And, but that's my suggestion. So that's the first discussion item, because that will determine then where we go with this, how we might tweak it or, so that's the first discussion item from my point of view. And the second discussion item is, how can the policy create clarity and consistency in the process of appointment to committees, boards, and commissions, assuming we decide to go that way. And then I have a couple suggestions there. But the first thing we have to decide, are we talking about just advisory committees, or are we talking about appointments to all of our committees, boards, and commissions?
Okay, so I would like to have policies regarding all appointments. There are differences between advisory committees and absolutely statutorily appointed items, such as the town manager, town clerk, DRB, planning commission, missing one. If we had to appoint a lister or any elected official that, there was a vacancy there. So those are things that I think we should follow a consistent process for both of those, all of them. But there may be differences on the way we treat a lister versus.
Right, well, a lister is in a different category than, I'm trying to get the categories straight, right? Because we have the groups, we have and I made a chart that I didn't bring of all those, that was my attempt to try to categorize the types of appointments that we make, right? But if we just are looking at boards, committees, and commissions, are there differences among the three of those categories? That doesn't include the tree warden and the listers, but those three categories, do we see differences in the way we want to appoint?
Well, listers are a board, so they are subject to open meeting law. They need to have a quorum and
Okay, so what are the categories?
Well, I think the most basic one that we have just recently encountered is public officer or not.
Right.
So I don't see any reason why we couldn't have a current policy with a bunch of sections for the different
Right,
various, and
right.
getting some recommendation on, I mean, we might want to start with VLCT if they have a template for this. And if so, what it looks like. But I think we have to have different, I mean, just the very basic question of can we enter executive discussion to
Right.
discuss an appointment or not? you know?
Right, I saw that as a separate, I saw that as the next conversation, as part of this. But, so what I'm hearing you say then is that the categories should be based on the public officer categories. That those were the things that's what would differentiate between one policy and another policy.
Well, I think it, sorry, go ahead.
I think they can all go under the same policy, but I do think we need to have sections that clarify the different types of membership.
Great.
Of which it would appear there are more than, I mean, there's public officer versus not public officer, but there's also listers being a good example, elected or non-elected.
Right.
I mean, that would definitely determine different policy for us.
Yes,
if we're
absolutely. Well, we're
replacing-
not appointing
We're
them
not.
if they're.
Well, we are,
Oh, we
well,
are.
we have, yeah, we appoint listers all the time because they leave and then nobody runs for the office.
Okay,
They become select board members.
Okay, so the categories then, and that's what I'm just trying to figure that out then. The categories then are elected, non-elected, or appointed, right?
Right.
They are public officers.
Statutorily governed versus
Yeah.
not statutorily governed,
Right,
and then advisory only.
okay, great.
And then, because it just came up, outside entities, you know, there could be another category.
There, yeah,
perhaps,
in
as
my
well.
chart, there is another category.
Yeah.
There's the town representatives to.
Well, right, and Rescue Inc. is the one that's come up now, but there
Right.
could very well be other ones down the pipe.
Well, I
So-
think,
Well,
for
there's
example,
Windham
Windham Regional, exactly.
there's the
Are they-
Windham Solid Waste Management.
The River Conservancy appointment.
That one would be, definitely, I think that would be a private, well, it's statutory though. It's in New Hampshire, it's by statute that committee exists. And in fact,
But
in the
if-
statute, it says that the representatives can't be, they have to be New Hampshire residents unless it's a border town.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that, I'm not, so those are gray areas again. So, and I don't know about Windham Regional.
And we're not in
Commission.
New Hampshire, so
Right, so
that
we are
may or
not-
may not be true.
Right, it's not our statutory consideration.
Right, maybe we don't have to
Might
follow
be.
that, I don't know.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so that's really helpful, and I'd like to take it back with some of that clarity and do some more work.
Well,
And I will work with Karen.
Right, but it might be worth your while, Peg, to get in touch with VLCT.
Yeah.
You, as a select board member, all select board
Right.
members have complete access to VLCT.
Okay,
So you can go directly to them
okay,
for advice. They can supply you with templates of policies, and they're incredibly knowledgeable.
okay, so
I will give you the email because you can't get a live person,
okay,
but there's an info email, and then they distribute your question to the appropriate person.
okay, great. Then can we have just another minute discussion
Yeah,
on the
absolutely, yeah.
second point? Because it's just really helpful to me to get a sense of what people are thinking. Because the second point has to do with what we will take into consideration when appointing. And we've had discussion in the last couple of board meetings about the role of the committee, the chairs of the committee versus, what are we taking into consideration? And so I just wanted to get a sense from the select board whether they think that the candidate's qualifications to contribute to the purpose or functioning of the committee, board, or commission is one thing we should take into consideration. The second being the recommendation of the chair of the committee, board, or commission. That doesn't mean that that they're making the decision, but that we take into consideration their recommendation. And then I didn't know if what we thought about something about diversity, equity, and inclusion, representation, and I don't know what to say there. I'd go to VLCT, and I would go to our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee and say, what do you guys think about this? If that was something that we thought was an important component of our consideration. So I just wondered what you all thought about any of those three things.
Well, I think that item 1, qualifications, is critical. You don't want somebody on there who doesn't understand the subject matter or the ramifications, or has had similar positions in the past, either with the town or with other towns or organizations.
Right, because the ripple effect there is going to be that if we say that, and that is what our main consideration is, then we also have to have really clear, like, expectations of what those committees are, what they're doing, what the job, what it is we want people to be doing. So.
In other words,
what are you qualified for?
What are you qualified for, exactly, so.
in other words, well, does that mean that we would have to have specific qualification criteria for each committee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what we should be doing.
Well.
Based on the committees.
You're not always gonna
No.
get people that are qualified. You know.
We take these things into consideration.
Exactly.
is what I'm saying.
I think
It's not
that would
saying
have
that
to
you
be-
have to meet
Right.
some standard, it's saying these are the things we take into consideration when making a choice. You know, if we have a choice or if we have to make an appointment, that those are reasonable things to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah, although that's very variable. The other thing we should be cautious about is from a diversity, equity, and inclusion standpoint, we don't want to create barriers. So for example, I mean, what are the qualifications for being a select board member? There aren't any.
Right.
I mean, anybody can do this. So when we come to appointing a select board member, what does that mean? Do we list qualifications for that?
Well, I say that we are clear about what the role of the committee is, what the role of any board is, and then that's what we look at, and we say, how is this person likely to be able to further the role, serving this role of this committee? And I don't think there's any other way to do it other than do that.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to cut you off.
That's okay.
So we did write up a description of all the.
And I put there in that chart that I
You have it.
created. I know, and I've started to create a chart that.
I think rather than putting down every single qualification that we might need for every single thing, I think maybe the expectation would be that when we say we want board members or committee members for the Mickey Mouse Club, whatever it is, that we are specific about what we're looking for in a letter of interest, because a lot of our letters of interest are, I'm interested in serving on the energy committee.
Right.
Which doesn't tell us anything.
Right.
So I think that somehow that should be made clear in here, so that when we do come back and we get a letter of interest, we have something that's actually substantial.
Right.
So that would be a process or a procedure when we send out a request for committee members. This is what we're expecting back from you.
Right.
I would again argue that we have to be cautious about setting up barriers. I mean, what if you have somebody that doesn't write?
Right. No, I understand that.
I mean, but we would have to be, if we're gonna have.
I thought about that.
If we're gonna have, criteria, or then there need to be options we'd have to provide options.
Right.
You can submit a letter of intent, or exactly.
Right,
we just have to be.
Yes, I agree.
very
Yeah, I thought about that too.
I mean, there's also, I hear that.
I think we'll.
I mean, there's always the fear factor of just coming before the select board to put your name out there.
Definitely.
Just, just to write that one
But
sentence.
to give
is
a
really
couple
hard.
I think
Yeah.
we can give options for how people, and we can give support, and we can give, there's lots of things we can do
Yes.
to make the process better and more accessible,
Less
but it doesn't
exactly.
help not to have a process.
Right.
That is not,
Sometimes it does.
no, actually, I don't think it's
Sorry,
right.
it's not so far.
But when if you go back to the conversation from the last meeting,
Right.
that
It doesn't help, yes.
the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee was trying to make, is that when you don't have a process that actually isn't inclusive,
Right.
that it's the process, having a process is what makes us more inclusive, so.
Karen.
So I just want to make a comment too that, for some people too, having diversity and having healthy dissent on a board too accomplishes things as well.
Yes, absolutely.
But if you have a member on a committee that has an agenda per se, and they're not, helping that committee along for a purpose or a task to achieve, then it's a problem. And then this board can dismiss that person. So Vermont Digger, I don't know what
Yes,
town
I
it
just
was.
saw that.
It was
Yeah.
St. Albans.
Yes.
Yes, it was, their
Where is
equity
St.
and
Albans?
inclusion. Their
Yeah,
equity and inclusion committee had a member on that committee, and he wasn't helping
He
it
was not-
along.
right, he wasn't
He
able
was
to-
working against them,
Right.
basically. And, the board just said, enough's enough, this is not a good match, or whatever they say. But, so I'm all for healthy dissent and people having, discussion and communication about certain things, but,
I would think one way of addressing that, and it would be a sort of broad way of addressing it, but a clear conflict of interest policy. I mean, if
which we have.
right, but we might need to expand it based on.
Or we may reference it.
Or reference it,
in here.
exactly.
Right.
I mean, under qualifications. If there is a clear conflict of interest, candidates will not be considered.
Right.
I mean, and
And I just want to say that having a clear policy is not going to resolve
No.
all the
No,
tricky
no,
issues
no.
around running a municipal.
No, but if we're following the
operation.
process,
But
right?
we'll be in a better place and
Yeah.
we'll be clearer about what we're doing, and it will be clear to other people. So that is all really helpful for me to go back and keep working on it. Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing that
Yeah.
work, Pat.
Yeah.
Kudos to you
Yeah.
for doing that.
And for generating a meaningful conversation about it.
Yeah.
That's important.
Well, and it's a little unclear to me, like, where conversation falls in our process. Because we, is it okay to just say, okay, can we just take 15 minutes and have a conversation among ourselves?
Yeah, well, this is the only place that we can have those
Yes.
conversations. So yes, we can't.
Whew,
So-
it's really nice to talk with you all. Nice to have a conversation
You
with
obviously
all.
can't write a policy in a vacuum. I mean, you could go as far as you want to, but then we have the
Yeah,
choice to cross out this word and do this.
yeah.
So whichever way, I mean, it's gonna be a long conversation, no matter how you approach
Right.
it.
And that's why I thought these two issues were good, just one place to start, to move us along.
One more comment on
Yes.
that, as far as good job descriptions or whatever, for the ones that are statutory,
They're
we
there.
obviously
Yeah.
would adhere to those, and those are already
Yes.
existing. So
Yeah.
we might want to enhance those a little bit for
Right.
various reasons, but those definitely exist.
Yeah. Great.
I have two hands two hands up in line, and Mr. Fairman also had a comment.
Okay. 2 points. First, the question has arisen of whether you might set qualifications for being a member of this select board. Your qualification, every one of you, is that we elected you. You cannot set any additional qualifications because you definitely would violate the constitutions of the United States and the state of Vermont if you did that. It is simply, if it's an elective office, you run for election, and we, the voters, decide whether you're going to be in office or not. That is simply a given. Now, the other point, your policy says members may be removed, your draft policy says, members may be removed at any time and for any reason.
No, can I clarify? That is part of the existing policy. That is not my draft policy at all. That's the existing policy, and I was choosing not to deal with that yet, that part of the policy.
The reason I said that is because you presented the thing with some comments, and I therefore assumed that as commented, it is a draft, but nevertheless, members may be removed at any time and for any reason or no reason at all. Here is the Vermont Supreme Court on that topic. I quote, members of public bodies also have a strong interest in ensuring that those they serve understand the basis for the decisions they make. Public meetings put on display the information relied upon, the course of deliberations, and the articulated rationale supporting the ultimate decision. Open meetings provide an opportunity to inform the general public about the decisions a public body makes and the execution of leadership exercised by that body. Working in the open can go a long way to creating trust in the results. The articulated rationale supporting the ultimate decision, for no reason at all, is not an articulated rationale supporting the ultimate decision. And there's no doubt whatsoever, since I'm quoting the Vermont Supreme Court, that you are over the line on that one.
Right, well, I have every intention of revisiting, of bringing that part of the policy up at a later point. Totally, I couldn't agree with you more about that. But I actually have a question for Charlie. Because part of what we need to look at is this public officer thing, right? Were you going to talk to Larry
I did.
and about vis-a-vis the committees, commissions, you know?
Well,
And we don't need, I guess I can talk to you independently about that.
Well, I think I
you.
was supposed to talk to him about
Specific to rescue.
specific to rescue.
Yeah.
I don't think that I was asked to talk to him about
In general,
in general.
okay,
So I did,
okay, that's fine.
but I think you make a good point. We need to do it.
At some point, we'll see where we go with.
One
Yeah.
thing about that, and we talked about this somewhat at length, I believe in the last open meeting, and Howard brought up some case law where a public officer was defined, sort of defined, as an official who exercises sovereign power, which is pretty vague.
Yeah.
And so I don't know whether we should take that into consideration. Probably we ought to talk about it in terms of how does that figure into what we're doing here? Who is a public officer?
Right,
What
we need to know that,
we need to know that.
yeah. So it's on the list of things to find out. Yeah.
Well, we can talk.
Yeah.
And it won't just the two of us, though.
We are allowed to talk, just the two of us.
Mary Quinn, you have your hand up?
I do. And first I have to apologize. I wasn't listening to every single word I was waiting for this issue to come up, and I was doing my bookkeeping. But anyway, so I'm on the Wetland Committee, which is part of the Conservation Commission. And the way we've normally been doing it is we submit a name to the Conservation Commission. And we first of all agree that we want to present a name for a potential candidate to the Conservation Commission, and then it goes to the Select Board. So am I understanding that the select board, somebody would go directly to the select board?
Well, we haven't decided yet. I think in the past, it's been kind of unclear how people do it. I think the letters of interest eventually make it to us, but I think sometimes we have them submit letters to the committees themselves. Somehow we will clarify that in the weeks to come, which way it should actually go.
Right.
So, and since we're part of the Conservation Commission, we're not even separate from them. So we would fall under whatever the Conservation Commission. I mean, the equity and inclusion is freestanding.
Consider this yet another variable. It's funny, I had the wetland stewardship group in a category of like, I can't identify, they don't fit into any of these other categories. So you were definitely in the other category, but.
Well, I mean, just to give you a little bit of history is that when the Wilson Wetland was bought, the Conservation Commission was named as stewards, and the Conservation Commission made a committee to be the stewards of the wetland. So in essence, that we're part of the Conservation Commission doing the work that they were voted on to do for the town for land that was bought. So,
I'm pretty sure that model was approved by the select board.
It was voted, yeah.
Yeah, we had a select board member on it at the time. Scott Henry was the member. I don't think we do right now, but those minutes are somewhere, I'm sure. But yeah.
I gave you copies of it, Josh.
Oh.
I don't think anybody else was on the select board at that time, but I certainly can forward the decisions that were made concerning the wetland. But but I'm sure it's way back in your file, and a lot of things have happened since then. But
my sense is what we're trying to do at this point, because it does seem like we've added more committees and subcommittees and, and commissions, and, there's layers, and that clarity is important. Just trying to untangle it a little bit, and maybe in somebody's head it's already untangled, but in a lot of other people's heads it's not yet untangled, and that's the goal here, is to.
So I would also assume that the select board would be talking to, like, say, the planning commission chair and the conservation commission chair, and whatever, to define these things.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Okay. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there more public comment online? There were two hands at one point. Laura? Yep.
Yes, I just want to commend you at trying to untangle this mess of overlapping committees and commissions and stewardships and advisory boards and so on and so forth. I have tried to do it for over a year. Yes. And had no success whatsoever. And I'm on the Wetlands Committee, and just learned tonight, a moment ago, that they're a subdivision of the Conservation Committee, for example, the Wetlands Stewardship Committee or whatever. But in discussing public service, it gets really muddy. And so I really think there ought to be some diagrammatics that can help people visualize it, Peg, and I trust you to go forward with that. I've wound up reading the warnings or, the job descriptions of various committees, and they haven't answered my questions. So keep up the good work. That's all I have to say, without undermining enthusiasm and youthful support for town governance, which we really need. I mean, it wasn't just the lady from Rescue that pointed that out, that energy is needed and interest is needed from the people that are going to be here 30 years from now. So That's all I wanted to say.
All right, is there more public comment in the room? Is there more public comment online? Is there further discussion among the board? Right then, thank you, Hege. Moving on to Vermont open meeting law violation complaint. So the piece that is still not done, as I understand it, is the select board committing to policies and procedures to prevent future actual violations taking place. How do we want to address that?
I'm not sure whether we did this in public, but I think the intent was to, I don't know quite how to phrase this because I don't remember whether we discussed this in the executive session where we weren't supposed to talk about it, or whether we voted to do this now. In other words, we attempted a cure.
Yeah, so we.
And I can tell you what the cure was, but I want to make sure that I'm at liberty to do so.
Well, this is my understanding of what's happened here. So we admitted an inadvertent violation of open meeting law because we went into executive session.
Right.
But we didn't take any action, so there's no action to cure. However, we are still required to put policies in place to prevent violations like that occurring in the future. And what I believe we did not do is we suggested that we would commit to that, but what we didn't do was vote on it, is my understanding of where we're at.
Can I suggest a motion? That I would right now make a motion that in the committee membership policy revision process, that we include a section that relates to appropriate entrance into executive session or not. And so we would embed in a policy where that could be entered and for what reasons. Obviously, it's statutorily governed, and we could cite those statutes as necessary. But if we're creating a policy around committee membership, it certainly seems like a logical place to address this. So I think, and maybe, well, Mr. Fairman, I'm sure will comment if he doesn't agree, but I'm thinking that might, if we were all to agree now and vote to include in this a section on appropriate times to enter into executive session for the purpose of appointing a committee member, that might address, or committee or board or other member, that might address, that might cover us.
I think you're right, because essentially what the statute says is that we should adopt specific measures that actually prevent future violations. So that's what we would be doing.
Right, okay, so was that a motion?
So I will make a motion that in the process of creating a committee membership policy or revising our committee membership policy, we include a section that addresses the use of executive session for the purpose of appointments when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate.
Did you just make the motion?
Yeah, I'm writing it down as I understand it, sorry. Session.
I was just gonna second it.
Okay, how does this sound? In the process of creating a membership policy, we will include a section on appropriate times for entering executive session. Did I miss anything?
I think that's
Sums it up.
exactly, that's slightly abbreviated, but probably better.
Okay. If you want to add any more words, I can put them in.
Sorry, I was creating it. That was on the
I was
fly.
trying to follow you.
I don't know whether to make a comment or to second it
Well, why don't you
first.
second it first, then it's on the table, and
Then
we
it's
can
on.
amend it
I second
or vote
it.
it down or whatever we want.
And I say, and in order for it to be relevant to the situation that we were in with rescue does not qualify as, it is not a town board, committee, or commission. So we just need to make sure that we not be talking just about committees, that in a policy which I don't know, I just think we need to be inclusive. We don't know what we're gonna call it yet. We don't know what we're gonna call this policy yet, because we're still working to figure it out. But in there, I think we need to not limit it to a committee membership policy, because that wouldn't include.
So,
So an appointment, select board appointment policy or something like that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because many of these are not committees.
Right, exactly, that's
So-
what.
So it would be a select board appointment policy.
What?
Select board appointment policy.
Select board appointment policy.
Because then this policy can relate to all the appointments that we have to make.
Yeah.
Right?
And did you want to say something about rescuing specifically?
No,
Then you
no, I
shouldn't
just
need
wanted to make
as
sure
long
what we
as-
said there
All right, so.
was an umbrella and that
So is that
included
a
rescue.
friendly amendment?
A friendly amendment.
So I guess you
So
second.
I would accept it as a friendly amendment. Do you want to just read
I'll
what
read it
you
again.
now
Okay, in the
have?
process of creating a select board appointment policy, we will include a section on appropriate times for entering executive session.
Seems good to me.
Okay,
So
Yeah,
moved.
so seconded.
okay. Is there discussion among the board? Is there discussion in the room? Mr. Fairman?
First, just as a consideration, the statute, which is the Vermont open meeting law, is prescriptive in this regard. I quote, "A public body may not hold an executive session except to consider one or more of the following." And the one that we're talking about here is the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee. And this is the issue that we're dealing with, because in this executive session, the people being discussed, I happening to be one of them, are and will not be public officers nor employees of the town of Putney. So what I'm cautioning is your policy cannot in any way go beyond what the statute says.
Right.
Right, we just have to figure out we don't yet have a really clear definition of what a public officer is. And that's what it's clear that with rescue, that position was not a public office. But we're not yet clear. We need to do more research. We need to understand more of our committees, boards, commissions, other representatives, which of them are public officers and which aren't. So I think we just need to give that good attention and be really clear so that we don't make this mistake again. The intention is to not make this mistake again.
Well, of course. However, you say that you're not sure who a public officer is. The Vermont Supreme Court has identified who is a public officer, and I'm looking at it right here. Now, quoting the Supreme Court of New Hampshire, they always, when they are in this situation, they say, "We are the final arbiters as to what the law means." The Vermont Supreme Court also are the final arbiters as to what the law means. Now, yes, attorneys debate this, but as soon as one is quoting the Vermont Supreme Court, one is quoting the final arbiters. So one can quibble perhaps about the meanings of words, because that's a large part of what's involved in legal debate. But nevertheless, it is not true that no one knows who a public officer is, because the Vermont
We don't. All we're saying is, we do not yet know.
Please let me finish my sentence. I was going to say, no one knows who a public officer is not true. The Vermont Supreme Court know who a public officer is, and they have said so. And that is actually the best legal advice you can possibly have. And I can cite it for you if you wish, but I don't know if that's germane in this instance.
So I think that this motion that's on the table would include, by necessity, either the assumption that it adheres to statute, or that we specifically cite statute in that context. So I think either way. I mean, does that motion seem to, and I know you're not our legal advisor, but I know you are also the person who might ask us to revisit this if it doesn't fit your needs. Do you feel that this addresses the need that needs to be addressed?
I do not, but we will come to that in a moment. I'm simply cautioning you that you cannot go beyond the statute.
Right.
And
We understand.
yeah, and that's all I did at this point, because as I am a party to this situation, I am not in a position, even as not being an attorney, I'm not in a position to give you any advice on this, because we are actually in an adversarial proceeding here, as legal disputes are. You know, that's just the way it is. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, and I realize that. That's why I'm asking you, because if we can come to consensus on what it needs to include, then maybe we don't have to do it again if we get it right the first time. So trying to get it right the first time.
Well, at this point, you and I actually have a draft, and also you have not run it by your town attorney. And I would offer this: you might want to ask the town attorney for an opinion on this before you adopt anything.
Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting that we adopt anything.
No.
I was suggesting that we have specific language to address this, which is that's what I'm.
How we understand
That's what it reads. The directive is that we need to follow, is that we need to come up with policy to address this. So my motion is related to
coming up with
proposing policy. I mean, we're not prepared to create policy in this moment, I don't think, that addresses that, beyond recognizing that we have to adhere to statute, which we recognize and did recognize, but mistakenly didn't understand the implications, or I didn't understand the implications. And I hate to belabor or beat a dead horse, but I do think there is, and this is where the legal, I would never argue with you that the Supreme Court doesn't have the ultimate say. I would argue that this the aspect of whether one might identify a trustee at rescue as a public officer if they're appointed by the town, I'm not sure that's been tested and therefore determined by the Vermont Supreme Court. So I don't know that we do have a final say on that. I don't have any interest in arguing that. I don't have any interest in fighting that fight or having the town fight that fight. But I do think it's a valid point that we might not know the answer to that, even though the Vermont State Supreme Court is completely clear about what a public officer is. This seems to be an area where that might not be 100% clear, but I might be wrong.
I have a suggestion. As Hege has undertaken to develop a policy that we've been talking about in terms of criteria, language, et cetera, I would be willing to try my hand at tweaking this motion and then throwing it out to the board, and if necessary, talking to Larry to make sure we get it right. That's all. I'm not saying we don't have it right now, but it might be useful to see it on paper.
All we're trying to do right now is get this right enough for Howard to be satisfied.
Right.
So I suggest that we add something to the language that says we will, something about adhering to statutory definitions of public officers. And that is what we will do. And I don't know what else we can do other than do that right now. So that's my friendly amendment.
But yeah, and I just wanted to comment that, my understanding of the way that this was working is that there was going to be a long process of working on the actual procedure.
Absolutely.
And that the commitment that we do so was the piece that needed to be said in open meeting, which we did the first time. And so I think we should at least make a motion to the effect that we intend to do that piece. But like you said, we don't have a good definition of a public officer. And I will say that I have had differing legal opinions about that. Or even the defined way that we might go into executive session so that it's clear and transparent as possible, without sacrificing our right to go into into executive session when we need to.
When it's appropriate.
So, when it's appropriate. So I think that's.
Can you read them?
I actually put different words than what Peg just said. What did you say?
I was saying taking into consideration or
citing and adhering to.
Yes, citing and adhering to statutory.
Okay.
I
added as defined by law.
As defined by law. There you go.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so that was a friendly amendment. Who made what?
Can you read it again?
Sure. In the process of creating a select board appointment policy, we will include a section on appropriate times for entering executive session as defined by law.
Definitely moved.
Okay.
Seconded.
All right. Is there more discussion among the board? There was somebody who had their hand up earlier. Did somebody wish to speak online? I think your hand goes down if I wait too long. Okay. Can I get Mr. Fairman first? Or do you want to talk first? Mr. Fairman?
Well, I yield to a member of the select board.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that the thrust of this statement that we adopt on this motion focuses positively on the policy, the procedures that we're going to adopt with respect to an appointment policy in the various positions, as opposed to focusing on the executive session aspect.
Yeah.
No, I think it just needs to be part of the policy as a procedural part of the policy to say.
Yeah, okay, I guess we've been tossing these things around in these various amendments. If I vote, I want to make sure I know what I'm voting on.
I mean, I think we all have agreed that we want to come up with a positive, inclusive, broad policy. And in order to address the specific complaint that's before us, we need to include language that directly addresses that.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that's what this, that's the intent of this motion.
Yeah, it won't just be about the whole membership. Hopefully the whole membership policy won't be about executive session.
That's good hearing.
Mr. Fairman.
Madam Chair, actually, my complaint that led to your acknowledged open meeting law violation entailed a written notice of request for specific cure of alleged specific violations as mandated by the Vermont open meeting law. I'm required to do this, and I did. So here we are. I have duly requested that members of the Town of Putney Select Board cure your acknowledged violation of the Vermont Open Meeting Law by considering in a duly warned public meeting all candidacies for appointment as Town of Putney Rescue Inc. trustee, and, as we've been saying, that you adopt specific measures that actually prevent future violations per the Vermont Open Meeting Law. So the question becomes, are you going to consider in a duly warned public meeting all candidacies for appointment as Town of Putney Rescue Inc. trustee?
An issue.
Sure.
Well, yeah, and
So
I'll just say that, legal counsel informed us, and the way that the law reads, there are two ways to cure an issue. One is to ratify or cure an action. One is to ratify the action in open session. The other one is to nullify it. There was no action taken, so there was no cure. So the only piece that we were addressing was the fact that we went into executive session. I don't know that we have an answer to how we are going to deal with the three candidates at this time.
Well, I can continue then, if I may.
Is there?
I'm just wondering whether we should go ahead and vote on this motion, because I think this is an important motion for us to have on the record.
Okay.
You may wish to hear what I'm about to say before you do that.
Okay.
It certainly is for me. So my understanding is that you will not consider in a duly warned public meeting all candidates for appointment as Town of Putney Rescue Inc. trustee upon advice of counsel, which means you have refused to do so.
No, that's not what we said.
Nobody said that, sorry.
Well, you have not done so.
Yeah.
We have not yet done so, that's true.
Fair enough. And I choose to employ the word refuse, but of course we can agree to disagree on that. Now, this is your second and intentional violation of the Vermont Open Meeting Law. You and your attorney believe that you have discovered two loopholes in the Vermont Open Meeting Law. First, the Town of Putney Select Board do not have to cure your acknowledged violation of the Vermont Open Meeting Law because you did not decide in secret, so your illegally secret deliberations regarding two candidacies to be Town of Putney Rescue Inc. trustee can remain secret, and it appears that you are going to address the matter of preventing future violations. Second, the Town of Putney Town Manager can bypass the second loophole. The Town of Putney Town Manager can bypass the Vermont Open Meeting Law by acting independently regarding a secret third candidacy to be Town of Putney Rescue Inc. trustee, because the Vermont Open Meeting Law applies only to public bodies such as the Town of Putney Select Board, not to a town manager. If these loopholes are legal, you have gutted the Vermont Open Meeting Law. But the Vermont Supreme Court in Severson versus City of Burlington will find otherwise. So I am going to give you all an opportunity to present your legal arguments to a judge in Vermont Superior Court, Civil Division, Windham Unit at Newfane. I shall commence this civil action tomorrow, Thursday, June 16, 2022, requesting an expedited hearing and trial or argument before this court per the Vermont Open Meeting Law. Each of you necessarily is a defendant who must be summoned personally, after which I assume that the Town of Putney attorney will file an appearance to represent you. Thank you. And that's all I can say on this at this time, because we are now commencing a legal action.
Well, okay.
That's fine. I don't think that we need to comment further on that. I think we should make this motion, and then I think we should probably move on. I don't believe that there's no compromise here, I don't think.
Well, it needs the compromise to address the appointment of Rescue Inc. board members in open meeting, which I think we intend to do anyway. So I'm a little frustrated.
No, I
that
mean, it's
we're at
not,
this point, but
it's not, I mean.
I'm not talking about doing that tonight.
Yeah, we
I'm
don't
talking
have it
about
on the meeting.
We are doing it.
But let me try to cut through this, might be helpful. Despite the fact that we didn't take any action in this executive session, and therefore that we didn't have to cure, it seems to me that we can essentially at this open meeting say, whether you call it a cure or not, number one, we acknowledge any inadvertent violation.
Which we already did.
Which, well, see, Mr. Fairman doesn't think that we did in public, so we can do
Well, we
that.
did.
We did.
All right,
Yeah.
so, and number two, that we adopt specific measures that actually prevent future violations. So
That's what we're trying to do.
exactly.
So,
But
that,
what Howard seems to be saying is that we didn't satisfy the first part.
right. But
Why
that's
don't we
not,
just bloody satisfy it by just saying in open meeting now, whether or not you want, we think it's a cure, but irrespective of whether or not it is or we had to, we are essentially acknowledging the inadvertent violation. And basically, and we're also going to adopt measures to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's all we got to do.
That's not his concern.
Well, the second concern, though, is specific to this position
Yeah,
and
but
these
that's not gonna
candidates.
satisfy it. I mean, what you've just proposed is what we already just proposed to do.
Right.
We haven't voted on it yet.
Yeah, but it didn't matter, it doesn't matter what we vote on, because he's made it very clear that that will not satisfy him.
Well,
What he wants, what will satisfy Howard is if we say that we will consider the 3 candidates in open session at our next select board meeting.
So why don't we just do that?
Well, that's a good question.
which I think we should.
You know, I mean, I feel like
I mean,
we were
if-
we were moving in that direction,
Right.
but he's forcing our hand, and so let's just do it. Let's just, I mean, I didn't feel like we weren't gonna do it, we just
I know.
hadn't set up our agenda for the next meeting yet,
Exactly. I think that, we were in the process of gathering the information we needed in order to get to a point where we could have an open discussion about the candidates for rescue, and we would intend to do that, because we still have to appoint somebody to
Right.
rescue, or actually, we don't have to
but we
appoint
don't have to
somebody.
appoint anybody.
But
We
we
should.
have the
Absolutely.
option
Have a
to, and we have
conversation.
3 people interested, so we should have a discussion in open meeting about that, and I think we all agree on that. So I would suggest that we vote on this motion,
Okay,
and then I'm happy to propose a motion or suggest that, I'm happy to request that there is an agenda item on our next meeting agenda, not our next meeting agenda, our next
next
regular
meeting,
meeting agenda, to have an open discussion about the 3 candidates for the Rescue Inc. appointment. So,
all right, so, back on to the motion that's on the table. Is there further discussion on the board on this one?
Can you read it again, please? Because
And-
I just need.
In the process of creating a select board appointment policy, we will include a section on appropriate times for entering executive session as defined by law.
No comment. No discussion.
Is there further discussion online? Comment online? Is there comment in the room? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. Okay, so now I will make a formal request to the chair and to the town manager that we agree to have as an agenda item on June 29th, an open discussion of the candidates for the Rescue Inc. board.
Okay, so, do you want to order me to do that, or do you trust that I would just do that?
Well, as long as we all agree, I trust that you will do that.
Karen? You got
Yes.
that on your
Yes.
notes, okay. All right, is there any discussion among the board about that piece? Mr. Farron?
Madam Chair, Select Person Alden is correct that I have forced your hand. And now I thank you for your proposed solution, which I shall take under advisement and shall not proceed further until then.
Okay, is there any comment online? Is there any more discussion about this piece? So we're just put this into the minutes, that that's what we're gonna do, and that should cover that. All right, wow, we're still not done here. Okay, moving on, June 22nd, 2022, Select Board Working Session Goals, June 22, at the Putney Fire Department, 5:30 PM. Is that just informational, or did you want us to?
It's just a reminder.
Okay, so everybody shows up next week, okay?
I will say now in open session, it's my anniversary, and I may be a
No-show?
short attendant at this.
Just bring your notes, please.
Yeah.
Homework.
Yeah, well, maybe we can.
Yeah, why don't you, if you have like specific goals that you want to see, okay.
Could somebody
Do we
give
have to
me,
have a copy of the town plan and read it before we discuss the goals?
It's online.
No.
I mean, it would be good to read the town plan.
I'm pretty sure I sent everybody
It's-
a town plan.
It's fun reading. It's got maps
Yeah,
and
it's
colors.
like
and-
99 pages.
It's awesome. Got lots of good stuff in it. You
No,
should read
a
it.
week.
No, I have a week, that's.
No, but also,
it would be
A week,
helpful
you've
to
had 2
me,
weeks.
it would be helpful to me if somebody framed up the purpose of this meeting, just so I can prepare myself so that I know what we're coming to do. We're coming to
so-
set goals.
Yeah, we're to set goals, so for the select board.
For
So
select board for
um,
the year.
Josh, you have been through that process before. Can you explain how it works?
I mean, from my perspective, it's an open conversation about what we want as goals for the select board. You may say, I want to finish a policy on appointments. Eric may say, I want to, revamp the town meeting process. Eileen might say, I mean, I think it's just an open conversation
Okay,
about what our goals might be.
for the year, long range, 5 years?
Well, like, we could discuss that in the meeting, but,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just, it's a list of aspirations that we would like to get done, and at the end of the year, we can review them and say, how many did we actually get done, and the ones that we didn't get done, we can put on next year.
Will we be reviewing the goals?
Well,
from
we
last-
should. This is the first time that I know of that we've
From
done
last
this.
We haven't
Yeah,
done
they're-
it in a while.
Yeah, it's
Oh, okay.
like 2006 or something,
fresh.
Okay, good, all
2009.
right,
So-
got it.
And I would just say, if you think of it essentially like a strategic plan,
Right.
so, I would say that maybe there's a long-term view. We would like to improve economic development in the town of Putney. In the next year, let's initiate a study or do this or do that. So I think it should be both long and short term. And, long term, we'd like to increase our resiliency for
Right.
the purpose of being prepared for climate change and pandemics.
Yeah,
you know.
right.
But I think it can be anything we want.
Yeah, one pump's pretty good.
And, sorry, one more thing. We could do this every other week if we wanted to. I don't think we want to,
No.
but we could. So it's just a
It's
conversation.
a bit of an opportunity for us to, get together and just kind of talk.
Like a retreat.
A little bit like a
Yeah.
retreat, yeah.
On TV.
I mean, the public, well, I don't know, are we gonna
That's
have
right, a public retreat.
are we gonna have it televised
I don't think we need to.
or hybrid for that matter? I mean, it doesn't have to be, right?
No, it's not gonna be hybrid either,
So-
because
so
I
it'd be-
don't have a means to.
So it would, the public is definitely welcome to
Yes.
attend because it's an
Yes.
open meeting, but it's really an opportunity for the select board to meet and discuss and get to know each other,
A work
whatever,
session.
right?
Yeah.
It's a work session,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay, so who's bringing the potluck items?
All right, so the next piece is economic development in Putney.
That's something we can talk about.
Want to talk about that next
We
week?
can, and
Yes.
I've talked to Karen about it, I've talked to Mike Costco about it, I've talked to a few others about it.
Mhm.
I have some ideas, and we can kick them around.
Right.
Cool. And it sounds like there might be some, well, there's that neighborhood, not neighborhood, downtown designation that would be
Yes.
a piece to
Have
that.
we been designated as a, whatever this, does it have any value to be
Yes.
designated as a center or?
It does, and I need to speak
Oh, we
to
oughta-
Phillip. I'll send it to you so you can read it.
Yeah, we ought to check that out.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are designated a number of things, though. I
Is
mean,
that
Our
right?
village designation, we are
Historic.
neighborhood designation area, that's brand new. We do have a historic
District.
district.
Do any of those involve the opportunity to get money?
Yes.
Yes.
All
Oh,
of
Yeah,
them.
all of
All of
those,
those.
yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
Different
And
pots of money for
tax
different
credits
things.
too.
Yep.
There's a downtown and village center tax credits as well. So I will get you this information.
Yeah, we
Charles,
can use that as a springboard.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. So you're done.
Oh, I'm done. yeah.
Okay.
And
All right, so we'll
I'm really glad we had this discussion. It's too bad we had to belabor it, but, you know, I think we're doing the right thing.
Okay, so I guess we'll.
I'm
put
talking
that-
about the
the previous,
procedures, yeah,
Yeah,
Process.
policy, yeah.
process and procedures.
Boards, committees, and commissions.
Don't even go there.
What? Don't want
Can we
any.
just do that? Yeah.
I'm done with that. No, okay, and then we are going into executive session under Title I. Is this true?
Do you?
Oh, other
wanna
business,
ask about other business?
I missed other business. I asked for other business to be on there and I've forgotten it. Is there any other business from the select board?
Can I just make a comment? So Sunday is June 19th. Juneteenth.
Yeah,
So
Monday's a holiday.
Monday is not a holiday, not for town
It
government.
might be a.
I thought it was a federal.
It's a federal holiday for
It is
sure.
not one of our town holidays, and equity and inclusion need to come up with a calendar, because I don't know if this should be a town holiday, and I'm not gonna make that decision.
Well,
What
if
it's
it's a
worth, Brattleboro is,
federal-
well, if it's a federal holiday, then that means federal employees get it off, but state employees don't necessarily get off. So
Right.
Lionel's
So
a
it's
state
not a
employee,
state,
but he works with federal employees who have the day off, and he does not.
Karen, we tried.
Give it another year.
Well, so
Okay.
July 1st starts a new fiscal year, and I would hope that we could get these holidays, because you weren't here when we ran into some conflicts on certain days, like in October and November, and we met as a board. So,
But we don't have a proposed meeting for Monday.
No,
No, but I'm just
asking
saying.
about the
Yeah, yeah.
calendar.
Okay.
There is I think it's Yom Kippur, but don't trust me, there is a conflict in November or September.
well, I think the Equity and Inclusion Committee, your Equity and Inclusion Committee needs to come up with a list of holidays.
Yes, they do.
Would it be appropriate for us as a board at this juncture to pass a resolution acknowledging Juneteenth? Not necessarily as a holiday, but
We could do that at the next.
but the principles behind it.
We could either just mention it, or we could pass a resolution if you want to write one up.
No, I'm not.
Well,
I don't mind writing one up.
in order to pass a resolution, somebody has to write it up.
And, yeah, I mean, since it's on warrant, but I think, but
No,
I,
not this meeting, but
Maybe that was the wrong.
right, but, so that would be
Like the
for the
weekend, that
future.
would
But
be
I think
for
we
the-
can all agree in open meeting that we recognize and respect the importance of
Yeah, that's what I-
Juneteenth.
That's the reason I brought it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so we can recognize it.
Help you get it off next year. Help get the Vermont State Institutes out.
There's, oh boy. Okay, is there any other business online? Is there any other business in the room? Other business? Is there any other business amongst the select board? All right,
I'll make a motion that we enter executive session under, do we need to, you said?
is that, we're doing that? Okay, well, it's on our, it's on
I'm
our.
not sure you're gonna make the decision tonight.
So I'll make a motion that we enter executive session under Title I, Section 313A2 to discuss the negotiating or securing of real estate purchase or lease options.
Second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to go under executive session under Title 1, Section 313A2 to discuss the negotiating or securing of real estate purchase or lease options. Before we do that, just a reminder that our next meeting date is June 15th. Wait, no.
June
No.
It
22nd.
says June 15th. We're just reading.
No.
But isn't that a special meeting?
Oh, boy, June 22nd. That's today. June 22nd, 2022 at 5:30 PM.
And
It
that's a
was gonna
special.
be-
That's a special
It's a
meeting.
special meeting. It's going to be at the fire station. It will not be online. So the public is welcome to attend, but you have to come to the fire station.
And public discussion will be limited because it's a work
Right.
session.
Right. And that's all I have to say. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.